got into you?
At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. Fuel your best.
Fuller,
Yeah,
needed F-150 for Smith build.
got it.
Yesterday.
I know.
Don't forget my BMW.
Gotcha. Check this out. All the major online automotive sites in one place. BMW, done. F-150, done.
How's he do it?
I can search nationwide, even those classified sites. Auto Tempest, all the cars, one search. That's how I do it.
There's only one fuel that can drive the performance you demand from your car. New 94 Octane, the highest octane on the market, only at Sunoco.
The race for 12 spots in the championship hunt turns to the Penske-owned beast in the Irish Hills to cut down the playoff field. For the first time this season, it's a war between momentum and discipline, as VSPEED welcomes you to coverage of the round of 12 cutoff race in the 2024 Sunoco Cup Series playoffs from the virtual Michigan International Speedway. We're ready for 400 miles, and we're happy to take you on the journey tonight as we decide the 8 drivers that will advance in the journey to a championship. Alongside Bradley Cooper in the broadcast booth, I'm Kenneth Bueno. Bradley, for one, we had Watkins Glen last week take us for a wild ride. Many of those drivers bounced up or down in the playoff fight. Now we head down to Michigan, what could possibly be the finalizer to the biggest wild card round we've seen yet in the hunt for a title.
I think for this track, it's just a matter of staying in the draft and hanging with the top of the field, not overdriving yourself just because, you can draft up there several times. There's plenty of opportunities to get to the front, but mainly just in these first few laps, feeling out the field, not getting too anxious. It's very easy to end up 4 wide here. It's plenty wide enough, plenty fast enough to make a mistake.
And just like Watkins Glen last week, it's a track one of its kind in the schedule this season. We haven't visited a 2-mile D-shaped oval throughout the campaign. It's the first time that the drivers really see something like this, and the first chance, Bradley, they'll have at a mix of both an intermediate and a super speedway. A lot of people would categorize this as a mix of both worlds, if you will, with the way you have to drive it. So how important is it to dial your car in, your mindset in throughout practice, give or take, with the time that these drivers had, and put it to use? Because it seems like, for the most part, we haven't seen a track quite like it yet.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird scenario, but it's one of my favorite places to be here. So usually if you come into this race knowing that it's a long race, 400 miles, and just pace yourself. In order to finish first you must finish. That's the wisest saying that you can have. Michigan really applies those rules. And then you have to factor in this race is notorious for becoming a fuel strategy race. So some of these guys with only 7 tires over the pit wall, they might come in and just top off with fuel. Try to stretch that run out for, stages, or maybe in the later half of this race, come out and snag a stage by stretching the fuel run. I would have to say that that's probably what we're going to see a lot of tonight.
Strategy will take place a ton throughout this race, and you basically gave us the basis of our race analysis tonight from the Irish Hills of Michigan. 200 laps, a lengthy distance at 400 miles around this 2-mile D-shaped oval in Brooklyn, Michigan. Pit road speed sitting at 55 miles an hour. As we see this race progress, we may encounter those green flag pit stops, and that might just give the opportunity for drivers to make or break their runs, given that pit road speed limit. Those 7 tire sets available for those in the field seems like a lot, but when you've got 200 laps on tap and 400 miles, it may not be enough to the end of the race. We've got 3 green-white checkered attempts returning this week after our road course last Sunday. That is to extend the race if we need it. The stages will go as such for stages 1 and 2. This will matter a lot. We'll touch on this over the course of the race. 60 laps apiece for each of the stages. Stage 1 comes to a close at lap 60, then 120 is the marker for stage 2. We'll bring it 80 laps to the end at lap 200. That will mean a ton, because these guys can't really make it all the way on fuel in any of the stages. Often we've seen guys be comfortable making stages 1 and 2 on fuel. Not the case here at Michigan International Speedway. So it will be a challenge to behold. For the playoffs, this will be big. Lawson Peel getting the win last week in upstate New York. He's locked in to the round of 8. No worries going into tonight's race. Steven Stempien, Justin Erb among those that moved up big time after the Glen last Sunday. Curtis Kelly, Alex Huffman among those that are tied. Those are drivers that won the races in the round of 16. Alex Muscarella, Chris Shoemaker, and Colin Forrester are the last 3 that are in. Forrester and Shane Wyatt, the rookie, they are tied on points, while Austin Reedy, Jesse Whittington, and Zach Wilson, they are behind the 8 ball, so they will have to execute here from Michigan. Let's get a quick glimpse at the starting grid from Brooklyn, Michigan, where Austin Reedy, who goes into this race 1 point below the cut line, will have the pole with a 38.719. He's joined by rookie standout Stephen Harlow. He's been fast as of late. He'll be on the outside of row number 1. Shane Wyatt, also with his back against the wall, starts from 3rd. Jesse Whittington in his Focus Fuel Chevrolet. He'll be on the outside in row number 2. Dakota Curtis with one of the best qualifying efforts we've seen of him this season. He starts inside the top 5. Zach Wilson, 34 points beneath the cut line. He'll have to roll off from position number 6. Behind them, Chris Shoemaker, Colin Forrester, Steven Stempien, and Richard Swavely, your top 10, as the rest of the order will scroll on the bottom end of your screen. Reedy and Harlow, front row, green flag racing, let's go, round of 12 racing from Michigan. To tally for the race lead, getting physical. Reedy banging doors with Stephen Harlow. Coming to the start-finish line, Harlow beats him to the flag at the conclusion of lap number 1. Reedy back down low, and the fight for the lead kicks up only 2 laps in as Wyatt and Whittington try to decide 3rd place.
Yeah, that little hip check there, I think that was Reedy's way of saying, hey, I'm a little bit faster than you, and Harlow trying to just lead lap 1. He snuck by there on the outside, but now it seems like the bottom's where you want to be as far as saving fuel. We talked about how it can be a fuel strategy race. If you're running the high line this whole time, you're going to burn a little bit more because you can go a lot faster through the exits, and it's a longer distance around these corners.
Well, with strategy, you may also have to look for the draft, something that we'll touch on over this race. It's so important at these tracks that are the healthy mix of intermediate and super speedway. You have to arc it down to the corners and slow down the race car, save the tires if you want to sustain over a long run. But down the straightaways, you've got to get yourself in the draft. That helps with the fuel situation, but also helps with a lot of that momentum that you carry on corner exit. Looking on board a bit, although Austin Reedy carries the race lead by 0.2 of a second over Stephen Harlow, roughly about 2 or 3 car lengths. Shane Wyatt, Zach Wilson, and Dakota Curtis, your current top 5. They're all about single file coming forward to the start-finish line. We can't get you a feed right now. It has gone away, so we're going to give you the play-by-play as it goes down. But Reedy so far the race leader in 1 and 2. Everyone curling around the Michigan International Speedway, using a bit of the grooves as Dakota Curtis catches the outside wall. Colin Forrester backs up. We're about 4 wide on the back straightaway.
A little bit of a technical glitch there. Not exactly sure what was causing that. We were still in the session. But it seemed like that camera angle there not liked by iRacing, so we'll try to avoid the nose cameras.
Well, it looks like maybe not a personal view up close with these race cars, but all good if we can see everyone from afar. There's Jesse Whittington picking up a bit of that nose damage as Dakota Curtis slapped the wall. It checked up that entire outside lane, Bradley, and in turn, Whittington, who comes into this race 3 points shy of a round of 8 ticket, is now with a bit of damage that can hamper him down these straightaways. The lucky thing for him is that he's in the draft, but a lot of pressure from Colin Forrester, P9. That could be at stake, P8 at least, if Whittington continues to fall back. He stays in the draft with Chris Shoemaker, that Ford Mustang, up the road. So look on board from Whittington, probably a little frustration behind the wheel given what's happened to him.
Yeah, and I think after last week, too, more frustrating. I mean, he was up in the top 10, then had I think a spin there in the chicane and that bus stop, worked his way back to the top 10. Watkins Glen was not kind to a lot of these guys that needed to have a good day. There was quite a few of them that just couldn't keep it consistent. And here tonight, picking up right where you left off, you've got guys that are also in that same cutoff line scenario with the Ford. He could be in that situation just ahead of him. So many of these guys through this week have been thinking, what do I need to do to execute to get in there? Zach Wilson's one of those guys, 34 points out. He's got to stay up ahead of this.
Well, if the test for those floating around the cut line or below it was to do well in qualifying, I'd say they passed with flying colors. You've got a ton of those cut line guys at the front of this field. Zach Wilson, though, bangs with Shane Wyatt down the back straightaway in an attempt to clear behind the Chevrolet, but in turn almost turns himself, and he'll get swallowed by the field in the mid-pack. What happened there?
I think maybe just misjudged. We'll try to get another angle of it here. I think he thought he was clear. Back this up one more time. I think he just thinks he's clear on the end of, yeah, it's definitely a nose camera that's causing this issue here. So we'll try to avoid that altogether. But yeah, he just comes up into the 27.
Just thought he was clear for sure. Thought he could go right in line. That's something crucial here at Michigan, where you have such a long line of cars on that outside. The draft is so important on the straightaways that it could make or break any pass attempt for position or defense as well. As Wilson will try and get the inside rolling here on the fellow Ford Mustang on the outside. That's the rookie Alex Huffman, winner from Richmond just a couple of weeks ago. Wilson will try and regain his position and settle back into the top 5 where he started tonight's race. Wilson, who did not have internet and did not have the ability to run at Washington Glen last week, a lot of that was due to the impacts of Hurricane Helene on his area. So thankfully Wilson has internet. He's still trying to get things back to normalcy in a way, but we hope all the best for Wilson as he and the entire area around him recovers from that devastating hurricane that struck not too long ago in the southeast specifically. Wilson, though, is back in action tonight, and we were talking about it just before getting on air, Bradley, the fact that Wilson may just have to win this race. He's 34 points back from the round of 8 cut line. He may just be close if he can win a couple of stages and finish well, but I'd say the checklist probably accounts for a win and not just getting stage W's.
Yeah, there's enough cars in here that, you know, I'd hate to have to do the math on the fly. I'm not known or well-renowned for doing math like that, but I think it would be possible. But just to ease your mind, going up here and stealing this win away would be the best way to guarantee your spot. There's no better feeling than just knowing at the end of this thing that you're locked in. And there's no worse feeling than having the anxiety of, did I do good enough, and waiting for those points to be published at the end of this race.
Well, the good thing is that a lot of times the Sunoco Cup Series runs races every other week, so in turn, like some other leagues that just run every single week, if you win a race at the end of a round, you don't have a lot of time to celebrate and digest the W. You just have to work forward to the next race. Here you can have a bit of a week off and celebrate for a bit, then move on to the next race, which is Talladega for the round of 8, and move forward. We'll keep an eye, though, on Wilson as he tries to push forward in this top 10. Onboard look with Steven Stempien, who put himself in a great position after Watkins Glen. He's 30 points above the cut line with the Dale Jr. colors right now, as he's in the outside of 4 wide at the exit of turn 2. That was Alex Muscarella, Chris Shoemaker, and the aforementioned Huffman. That they were all going side by side. They are bobbling down this back straightaway, Bradley. It is getting sketchy up front.
The big check up there by the 48 of Muscarella. I think the 88 wasn't expecting that much of a lift into the entry at 3. And then you saw Huffman down there on the bottom getting a little wiggle from the 51 on. I think they were trying to bump draft, just couldn't get squared up. It was 3 wide behind him here with just like the 94 Whittington in the middle of it.
There's Whittington down the middle, that bright pink and white Chevrolet just weaving through. It appears he's losing a lot of that position that he had early in this race. Curtis Kelly moving on by. It was one of the fastest cars in practice. And right behind Richard Swavely, Aaron Adcock, among those that are trying to work their way into what is the top 15 here. Whittington on the back pedal early as he runs that outside lane. Austin Reedy still the race leader. He's held it by several car lengths. And the battle for second heating up. Dakota Curtis on the inside of the rookie Stephen Harlow. They've been going at it with the likes of Shane Wyatt for the last several laps. And not much movement between these guys. Not much of any fireworks to tell you about. But for the most part, it seems to be clean racing. And Dakota Curtis, aggressive early on, started this one inside the top 5. And the league owner is pushing for position early.
Yeah, he was up 2 there, just a second there before Shane Wyatt got by him on the outside. But he's trying whatever lines he can to get around and get up to the front. For the 43, you know, just a solid start to this race. I just hope he can keep it all together. We've seen him up front a few times this season, and then it all falls apart with the last probably 30 laps or so.
Obviously, he just wants to capitalize for some of those races that haven't gone his way, or at least avenge himself in that sense. Dakota will slide into 4th. That leaves a ton of this field single file, other than Alex Muscarella and Chris Shoemaker. They're going door to door for top 5 position. Those are playoff drivers highlighted in yellow on their front windshields, their spoilers, and their splitters. As here comes Stephen Harlow down to the inside, wasting no time. New race leader from Michigan.
So it's kind of similar to what we saw at the start of this race. He goes up there and leads a lap, and then Reedy comes right back with an answer. I know the draft is part of that. It's very difficult to maintain the lead here at Michigan because you can't escape the rest of the field. There's always going to be somebody drafting back up to your bumper and getting a good entry into the corner. And a 2 or 3 mile per hour advantage will get them to the inside or outside of you. Once you hit that front air, we always talk about clean air at other racetracks. Clean air here does help it handle, but it's not as advantageous when it comes to top speed.
And when it goes to the straightaways, you're going to be left for dust if you're that solo car on the inside. And that's what happened there to Stephen Harlow. Looked under for the race lead. Reedy had the run up high, filled that space, had the help from Shane Wyatt, and all of a sudden, Harlow had fallen back to second. He had lost that chance for the race lead and to maintain some of that position. Here is the two-time champ, Lawson Peel, locked into the round of 8 after winning last week in dominant fashion at Watkins Glen International. Well, he's been on the move, started 24th, and has worked his way up now inside the top 10. But we know Peel Bradley is a driver that likes to do what we call the start or the back-to-front challenge, if you will. Start in the back and then just weave your way through the field. Peel did that somewhat at Watkins Glen after starting in 15th. Didn't have the greatest qualifying effort. And here at Michigan, not even putting a time in qualifying, second all the way back here. But no match. 18 laps in. Here he is, door to door with Stepien as Muscarella weaves down from Dakota Curtis after tapping the outside wall.
Just behind that, Huffman got a piece of the wall as well. I think right here for Peel, he's kind of hit a wall. He's transcended into this top 10 pretty easily, but now he gets up here closer to the top 5. It gets a little harder, a little more difficult to pass these guys one at a time. He's been side by side with about the 5th place now for 2 or 3 laps. Muscarella advances his position, and so he's trapped down here on this inside line. Not going to advance quite as quickly.
And you see those two cars, 4th and 5th, Muscarella and Peel. They are the last 2 winners here at Michigan, or some of the last 2 winners here at Michigan over the last several seasons. Forrester won last season, but Peel won in the first season with the next-gen cars in this series. Muscarella, before winning at Daytona this year, had picked up that win in Michigan back in season 3. That was 2021 with the Gen 6 machines. That was one of the last races. I believe it was the last race of that season, respectively. So you've got some of those drivers who knows what it's like to win here at this 2-mile oval in Michigan. But for the moment, they're all running single file. They'll try and spread out of it into the entry of the corner, and Peel continues his progression through the field as Stephen Harlow backed out of the way. Shane Wyatt pulling off the move. Shane Wyatt to the race lead 20 laps in.
He gets by Reedy. And I'm really impressed. Watch this 12. He's using the apron. He's running lower than anybody else right here. And getting a little contact there with the 27. Little error in judgment there on that exit. But I've watched Peel go to the bottom here and pass a 2-for-1 special on Dakota Curtis and Steve Stepien. Nobody else is doing that up here in this top 10.
Everyone's staying rather high. Everyone's in the middle lane. Lawson Peel is a little more faithful to that yellow line on the inside. The other driver it's worked for, Alex Muscarella, that Lowe's Chevrolet, working underneath Austin Reedy, getting the side draft for the Teamer Designs Camry. The effort to slow him down from the straightaway, but going to gain it all back here in 3 and 4. That seems to be the mindset for Peel and Muscarella. It seems, Bradley, that they're using less of the super speedway aspect of this track and relying less on the draft, but relying more on what they can provide in the corners. It goes a long way if we can clear a driver off of the exit of turn 2 or turn 4 for that matter. And here comes Austin Reedy back down low for the race lead. He's got it.
That's kind of an art to that, right? You come down and run your single line. You have the clean air. You get the good drive off. Then you find that hole in that single file line to get the draft into the next corner. And if you can consistently do that, I think that's how Peel was able to advance from 24th up to where he is now. He was in and out of the line every corner, and he'll just keep running that bottom until it doesn't work anymore. Now, right here with the draft, he's stuck with Stepien, whether Stepien was bump drafting him or he's following now. That seems to be about where I think the tires are going to plateau for the 12 car.
You're right, at this point of the race, that's really where the Goodyear Eagles start falling off, and so you have a lot more separation at the opening stage of these runs on fresh tires, these cars are all over the place, right? They're 3 and 4 wide. They're in packs with each other, and they cannot escape. And that will be the same over the long run, depending on how fast the guys are, specifically up front. But if you look at 13th on pack, Jesse Whittington is theoretically the last car in this main group. It goes back to Richard Swabley, who leads a second pack of cars, including Justin Winters, Brandon Banks, Aaron Adcock, and even behind Chris Progar back in 24th, you know, it starts to separate a little more back in the deep 20s. So at this point in the run where the tires start to squeal a little bit and you don't have as much grip as at the race start, you know, the draft will still matter a bit, but it's how you enter and exit these corners that will play that big difference. You're right on board with Progar, sitting 23rd.
A little bump there to the 75 of peg leg. Chuck Phelps running in 22nd. And these drivers, you know, they started, Chris Progar starting up there in 15th. I'm really surprised to see him. I don't know if he had an issue that got him caught back here, but he was pretty fast in practice. I'd look to see the 7 probably work up back to where he started, or if not better by the end of this thing. But right now, he's just far enough back that there's no draft help in front of him. It also doesn't help that these guys all kind of going side by side.
Progar getting hounded here. This is for 24th on the racetrack, rather 22nd. That's where Progar is in that fight with the Coman Motorsports Mustang up top. That is Chuck Phelps, driver of the 75. On board, look with him as he enters in turns 3 and 4 in that 22nd spot. He'll have Progar in the rearview mirror. Good look there from the top end of the screen. You could see Progar's Chevrolet peeking underneath, and they'll go side by side as they exit turn 4 in this long front straightaway. It sits at about, I'd say 14 degrees on the front end of this. Actually 12 degrees on that front straightaway to the start finish line. Look at that, 3 wide behind them. Back in the 20s, Brad Fulham sitting in the middle. And he'll get turned. And so will Phelps down the back straightaway. Yellow is out for the first time as Phelps hammers the inside wall.
That was a simultaneous deal there with Progar, and then behind them, I think that was Brad Fulham and Chuck Stevens.
So it was a synchronized spin between Brad Fulham, who made contact with Charles Stevens, and then Charles Phelps. Then a bit of Progar there at the exit of turn 2.
That was strange there for Progar. I don't know if he thought he was clear or if he got loose or tight. Look at this again. This is happened so fast. Yeah, he got loose.
Looked like he weaved him in the middle of 1 and 2, then just shot up the racetrack. That right front could not take any more. No more rotation there for Progar. Knocks the wall, gets right into Phelps at the inside. And here's Fulham just in the middle, 3 wide. These guys are battling for, give or take, 24th on the racetrack. And it's just a bit of that contact that'll send these two around for the spin. For the most part, iRacing will not constitute that as a yellow flag because technically they were underneath the racing line, so it won't count as a yellow. But because we've got Josh Lokovitz, our great race control, that tries to be here for every single Sunoco Cup Series race and giving fairness to those who were involved in this incident. As there's Progar getting the look at Phelps again, how they made contact off of turn 2.
I didn't see that. He hit the wall, and that's what sent that car sideways. I thought it was a little strange that he had gotten so loose where that car snapped free, but now that makes sense.
So here are the leaders on pit road. Mind you, this is right at the halfway mark of stage 1, so this should get everyone till the end as long as they can save just a bit of fuel on that pace lap. Jacks are off for a bunch of the drivers, and Austin Reedy gets away first. Lawson Peels, Stephen Harlow, first, second, and third out of the pit lane. So maybe no surprise that those guys in the front continue to do their business, but this is a great race right now for Austin Reedy Bradley. This is something he needed going into this one. The points leader for a majority of the season without a win. A couple bad races, including Watkins Glen, where he nailed the barrier off of the bus stop in the back end of the speedway. Ended up torn up. He got himself out of that race, and in turn, he's 1 point below that cut line to advance to the next playoff round. So for someone like Reedy, who needs to step up tonight, he's done so well with capturing the pole, leading a ton of laps already.
Yeah, and there's quite a few, like you said, in qualifying, did exactly what they needed to do, executing, getting up front, and starting this race up towards the front. It's a lot easier here at Michigan if you start in the top 10. I can tell you that you're not guessing as much on your strategy. You're not having to take gambles to make up track position, because we saw there on just that short 25-lap stint how spread out this field can be. And if you're 15th on back, you might not ever see the lead again. Without these stages and these races stay green, there's really no shot. So, you know, if it turns into a long green flag run and you find yourself falling through this field, you know, starting up front can help mitigate some of that damage.
It's all about track position, especially as the run progresses, where it'll get a lot harder to pass as the draft falls away and as the dirty air kicks in a little more. We're doubled up for the restart here at lap 30. This will be the exact halfway mark of stage 1. We'll throw that yellow at lap 60 if we stay green up until then. And with this yellow flag coming at an opportunistic time, none of these guys theoretically will have to come down pit road again for the rest of the stage. So that eliminates part of the green flag strategy we teased on at the beginning of this show. Nonetheless, Austin Reedy and Lawson Peel will double up on the front row and bring us back to green flag action here at Michigan. Just a note of the driver sitting back in 16th place, Justin Erb, who has been one of the best playoff drivers all run long up until now. He's got the second best average finish with 7 over the first 3 playoff races. He's 18 points above the cut line. So far, he's only been running mid-pack. So for Erb, who has a ton of points above the cut line, he could be bounced out if he's out of stage territory, and if he does get swallowed up by a ton of those drivers at the back of the field. Well, pace car makes his way down to the entry of pit road. Austin Reedy, Lawson Peel to the Geico restart zone. Green flag restart for the first time tonight.
Decent enough jump there for Reedy, but now he has Lawson Peel in his mirror. For the first time today, we're going to see that 12 car, what he can do up front with 4 fresh tires. And it's just a matter of time here before you start seeing the passing go in the top 5. There's the momentum swing for the 88 of Stempien down the backstretch.
Stempien down low on Harlow. The rookie striped number 33. Successful. Gives Stempien 3rd place at the entry of 3 and 4. Answer, can he be able to move off of turn 4 with enough momentum? He's got it for now, and now Harlow may be pressured by Muscarella. So someone that dropping the hammer, Chevrolet's top 3 up front to turn 1.
It's on board here with Stempien. This is going to be a tough ask here. You've had Reedy, who's been up front for probably 90% of that run in the first 25 laps. And then you have the newcomer, Lawson Peel, that just came up here, and he's probably going to play a little defense. Stempien was fast, but these two went back and forth. They're both about equal, I'd say, right now on tires and speed.
Well, this is looking a little reminiscent of last week's race at Watkins Glen. Stempien on the catch-up to Lawson Peel. That was a storyline we touched on late in that going. Peel, though, was able to cruise and hold on to the victory. And an interesting ploy there from the 2-time champion, Bradley. Did not arc to the inside of Austin Reedy in search for the race lead. He stayed behind the Camry, gave him the push on the front straightaway, and just hung on in 2nd place. Seems to be a purposeful strategy, but Stempien says no way. Swinging out of line, turn 3 for 2nd place.
I think he's thinking more about what part of the track can I get away with this. 1 and 2 probably not his favorite part to try to take it to the bottom, but 3 and 4 seems like if you can carry that draft and that momentum. We saw it with Harlow earlier. He was able to get a lap led, but this time it doesn't work for Stempien. Lawson Peel pushed Reedy back past.
It was decision time there for Peel on the front straightaway. He decided to help Reedy, and he gives the 96 the race lead once more. Now another Chevrolet joins the fight, brushing the wall, though, Dakota Curtis. And that'll open the door for Stempien to make it single file for the first 8 or so cars before you get back to Alex Huffman, who's starting about a side-by-side battle. There was Aaron Adcock he was with. But Adcock pushing up on the high side. He's got Shane Wyatt down low as Peel strikes for the lead off of turn 4, unsuccessful as Stempien gives the push to the race leader.
Yeah, I think Lawson Peel had a receipt and just got a return for that. It's the same move that happened to Stempien when he went for the lead. Reedy loves it. He's led every single lap that these guys have tried to overtake him out of 4.
Well, this is a situation for Reedy where he's telling the field, hey, I kind of need to win the stages if I want to stay alive in this playoff fight. He's got a good amount of respect with Stepien and Lawson Peel. Those 3 have raced for a couple years. Watch 3 wide in the mid-pack. Curtis Kelly on the outside of Aaron Adcock and Shane Wyatt off turn 4.
Just lurking back there is Justin Erb. We were talking about him a moment ago before this restart. He has gained 3 positions since we talked about him. Now 4 as he gets up to 11th. He's just on the edge there of that stage and getting points. He needs to get around Chris Shoemaker and get clear here. Finish this pass so he can go back on offense. He's got Alex Huffman right in front of him.
And that's help right behind Justin Winters, and it appears Justin Erb in the middle of a Allen's Legacy Racing sandwich between those Ford Mustang dark horses. 3 wide now for second. Dakota Curtis looking on the inside. Neither of them have help on the front straightaway, and Steven Stepien steals the race lead and has the advantage by at least 3 car lengths back to turn 1.
Stepien snuck that away. It only looked away for about a lap, and he, somewhere probably in turn 3, I would say, has created a wake effect. So he goes up there and causes some waves, and then you can see this 3 wide transitioning all the way through back. It started with the 2nd, 3rd, 4th position. Now it's back here to the 7th, 8th, 9th position. It's going to continue on. It's so weird to see how one group can go 3 wide, and then 3 or 4 guys behind them will continue that trend.
That's what Michigan is all about. You can balance that intermediate style of racing in the corners versus the super speedway-esque style of drafting on the straightaways. Onboard look with Curtis Kelly, one of the fast banana drivers in the field and a winner in the playoffs. Got the W at Atlanta to kick off the postseason. Has been doing well for himself. Is one of those guys sitting with a pretty decent margin over the cut line at 17 points, along with fellow winner in these playoffs, Alex Huffman. Kelly, one of those light field who started further back in this field. He started 18th and has been working his way through the field. He'll peak on Aaron Adcock, another one of those guys who has made some slight progression over the first half of stage number 1. Kelly looks up high. Problem is no help, Bradley, but we're seeing a ton of dive bombs into the corners. Is that the key to make those passes specifically on the inside?
I think that's working right now, at least with the track the way it is. It's a little green out here, not a lot of rubber buildup. But as we get later in this race, it might not be the answer anymore. You've seen it here, Kenneth. We've watched plenty of races in Michigan, how it migrates to the top. And I think eventually that middle to high line is going to be the only way around some of these guys.
We saw Lawson Peel employ that strategy quite a bit. Work to the inside, float up high, and just let that dirty air wash everyone behind you away. Seems to be working for some. We're side by side with mid-pack. That's Shane Wyatt and Aaron Adcock. That aforementioned battle we're watching for 7th here. As Alex Upton falls back of it, he's dropped to 9th place. Dakota Curtis was up in the top 3, fighting for the race lead a couple laps ago. He got loose out of turn 2, and all of a sudden he drops all the way to 10th. Just how quickly things can happen here at Michigan, especially if you don't have any help. Curtis trying to best his, so far, best finish of the season. That was 4th at Talladega earlier this season. Curtis has not been able to replicate that, and here are 2 guys I don't think we expected Bradley to see this far back in the field. This is on the outskirts of the top 15. Justin Erb, Colin Forrester back to turn 1, deadlocked.
Yeah, Erb got up to 11th. I'm not sure what went wrong for him, but now he's behind where he restarted, and he's struggling. Colin Forrester is another one of those cars that needs to get stage points. He's in a weird situation coming in here. These guys struggling a lot. I'm really surprised to see, especially with Forrester and Erb having such great seasons. This is a track that I thought, especially for Forrester, he'd be up here leading, because look at how well he did at the intermediates.
Well, and he was the defending winner here at Michigan, won it back in season 6 rather. So Forrester knows how to stay up front and lead this race, but for right now, just hanging in the curtains, waiting for something to happen. We saw the same at Watkins Glen, where he started the race pretty back in the top 10, then fell even further down the running order, just stayed in the mid-pack, and there was an opportunity for him to gain track position. He did, but then just got into problems that took him back to a top 15 finishing position. That puts him right where he is now in the points, tied with Shane Wyatt for that final spot in the round of 8. There's the top spot, Lawson Field taking over the lead over Steven Stepien, Austin Reedy, Stephen Harlow, and Alex Muscarella, top 5, heading back to turn 1 with 18 to go in stage 1.
It seems like these guys make their move for the lead when we take the camera off of them. They go stagnant and quiet. We look for some side-by-side. We come back. We've got a new leader. It's happened to us 3 times now. And I'm starting to see the momentum, the accordion effect again here with the draft. It looks like Reedy and Stepien are going to probably get hooked up here. A little bit of a cushion there. Pio actually pulled away from him out of 4. That's impressive.
Seems like the tires working in favor. Again, everyone on the same set of Goodyear Eagles. All of them came down pit road at that singular caution flag we had for on-track incident midway through the stage. So everyone's on the same tires, but they're 15 laps old already. They've flicked off a ton of laps early in this stage, so you can tell the tires can fall off quite a bit already, and for the most part, it will separate those from who will fall back at the end of the long run. Lawson Peel still the race leader. Stepien back by at least a car length. Austin Reedy third in line. They'll go side by side for 4th and 6th place. Stephen Harlow, Curtis Kelly, Shane Wyatt, Alex Muscarella among the small group of about 4 or 5 cars that are entering turn 1 late in the top 10. Huffman trying to crack into the top 10 after starting 14th. You work on the high side of Curtis Kelly. This time in 1 and 2, you'll get the ball off of the final corner entering the back straightaway. He'll have the help from Alex Muscarella. And Curtis Kelly falls back. He'll get freight trained by the Lowe's Chevrolet of Muscarella and be ducked out of line. Kelly falling back to 8th place. We're seeing a bit of separation from the first pack and the second. The second pack beginning now with Richard Swavely sitting in 11th. He's in front of almost 3 wide. Zach Wilson, Justin Winters among those that are tallying for top 15 position. We talked about Wilson, who was back by 34 points entering this race for the round of 8. A ton of other playoff drivers there in the mid-pack as Stepien fights in front for the race lead. We'll be back in just a moment. Sunoco Cup Series playoff action on the other side. We'll get everything situated and be back with you live on VSPEED.
What got into you? At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. Fuel your best.
Fuller,
Yeah,
needed F-150 for Smith build.
got it.
Yesterday.
I know.
Don't forget my BMW.
Gotcha. Check this out. All the major online automotive sites in one place. BMW, done. F-150, done.
How's he do it?
I can search nationwide, even those classified sites. Auto Tempest, all the cars, one search. That's how I do it.
There's only one fuel that can drive the performance you demand from your car. New 94 Octane, the highest octane on the market, only at Sunoco.
Welcome back to the virtual Michigan International Speedway. We've had some tremendous racing over the last several laps. They're door banging for 3 wide. That's about 6th place. Austin Reedy, who was the former race leader and pole sitter, has dropped to a race worst 8th after getting bobbled out of the way, losing the race lead. And Lawson Peel takes the top spot. And watch even more action that happened off of turn 4. Reedy looking down low. That was Stephen Harlow, Alex Muscarella. 3 wide, Bradley, for 4th place on back behind the race leader.
Yeah, it was chaos. I got back into the session here, and these guys were bobbing and weaving. They're going to go all over the place down the backstretch. Lawson Peel trying to break that draft, and he's kind of pulled away from this group. He's trying to keep them at bay and not let them draft back up, because after he gets through these corners, he pulls out probably 2 or 3 tenths a lap.
And we were apologizing for some of those technical difficulties that we had a little bit earlier, why we had to go to commercial break in the middle of this stage. But thankfully, things are back underway. Hopefully, we don't have any more problems or any gremlins going towards the end of this stage and the rest of the event. Stephen Harlow, who was up near the race lead, he is backed off to 5th. In the aftermath, that was that 3 wide action you just saw for a moment. Now he peeks underneath the rookie, Alex Huffman. They'll almost make a bit of contact and brush each other off of turn 4. And again, just the racing, tremendous here at Michigan. 3 wide as Curtis Kelly threads the needle before turn 1.
Right up through the middle. Now he has to carry that. He can find himself, because of that entry, falling back 3 wide here again. Looks like Harlow's going to cut him a break and not take it there. But he definitely had the momentum to do it.
And so they'll back off. Again, the inside line with Kelly all by himself is only going to work for a little while, and then it'll start to flutter away. Good news, though, is that Fast Banana is strengthening in numbers. Austin Reedy up front, and Curtis Kelly right behind in 7th. And back in 10th place is Colin Forrester, sneaking into the foray. We haven't talked much about him. We noted that he was back in the mid-pack in a situation where he's fighting for his championship life right now. If it comes down to the end and he is below that 8th spot, be it by however many points it is, he cannot fight for a championship like he did last season, where he made it all the way to the championship 4, made a good fight out of it at Homestead, Miami. So he lurks back in 10th. With a bunch of other playoff competition behind him, Bradley, it's safe to say that Forrester's just getting his bearings together, but it's still good news anyway. He can pick up some crucial stage points with 8 laps to go.
Side-by-side continues with Aaron Adcock looking at 9th position. Justin Erb, who we talked about earlier, has since fallen back to 19th, so it's not looking like a stage day here, at least for stage 1. Lawson Peel has pulled out almost a 1.5 seconds from Shane Wyatt.
And a ton of other playoff guys that are buried in the top 15. Zach Wilson, who's fighting. He makes contact with Chris Progar down the front, or the back straightaway rather. That's in his fight for about 13th place in the mid-pack. They're about 2 or 3, almost 4 wide. But back there, Chris Shoemaker, another playoff driver. Justin Erb that you mentioned, Bradley, already. And you look further down the order, 23rd all by himself is Jesse Whittington. So there's a lot of trouble for some of these guys that will miss out on a ton of playoff points. And that is necessary for them to reach forward. A ton of those guys either floating around the cut line or are beneath it going into this race. So Peel up by at least 1.5 seconds. He moved his way from 24th on the grid, did not set a qualifying time. Shane Wyatt back by a bunch of car lengths. Him and Steven Stepien have gone nose to tail, 2nd and 3rd right now on the racetrack. 4th place is Alex Muscarella hanging in that group, and Alex Huffman lines up as the last car in this current top 5. So a ton of changes, Bradley, but I say maybe not surprising to see some of these stronger drivers at the intermediates take center stage with about 5 laps to go until stage 1 is complete.
Yeah, there's not a lot of time left, and I think right now we've established the drivers that are going to be in the stages. Now it's just a matter of where do they want to end up. You see Stepien
caution
going
flag
offense.
out. Chris Progar. Trouble off the back straightaway. And it will collect Justin Erb. With heavy right front suspension damage, Justin Erb may have just been shown a dagger to his playoff hopes. There's a torn up Chevrolet in turns 3 and 4, and watch how it all unfolds on the back straightaway. I believe it began with Richard Swavely, hopped into the outside wall, caught Chris Progar, and then as they're all checking up, Erb does not see Dakota Curtis in front. ends up getting a piece of it on the right side of his race car and just getting slammed into the outside safer barrier. They all checked up off turn 2.
That was a big check up there with Swavely hitting the wall and then nowhere for Justin Erb to go as we go on board with him here. Right there's the brush with the wall from Swavely.
Erb sitting 20th at the time of the yellow. And that's the first bit of contact with the rear bumper of Dakota Curtis. That is what rips the toe link off on the right foot suspension. And that secondary hit to the outside wall, it doesn't do him much justice either. So Justin Erb may be out of the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs with big time damage as everyone takes pit road.
I know the 33 of Harlow just missed his stall there. That's not going to help things at all. Race off of pit road, I mean, looks like the left side's just now getting up on the 33. That should do it for our stage, I believe.
So Harlow with a big mistake drops all the way back in the mid-pack area. Fell all the way back to 13th in that exchange. Lawson Peel, the current race leader, as Austin Reedy, pole sitter, still on pit lane, getting damage fixed. And you're right, we are going to end stage 1 here 3 laps early. So Lawson Peel ends up taking the stage, and he'll add some more to his playoff tally heading into the round of 8. Stempien back in 3rd place for the stage. Wyatt finishing in 2nd. Muscarella finishing 4th. Alex Huffman getting a top 5. Then Austin Reedy, Curtis Kelly, Stephen Harlow, Colin Forrester, big name to talk about there, getting 1 point for finishing in 9th. And Aaron Adcock for Poman Motorsports rounds out the top 10. So with that, Lawson Peel, dominant start after beginning this one at the back of the field. More action for the Sunoco Cup Series on the other side. 1 stage complete, a long race to go. From Michigan, Lawson Peel, the current race leader.
What got into you? At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. Fuel your best.
Fuller,
Yeah,
needed F-150 for Smith build.
got it.
Yesterday.
I know.
Don't forget my BMW.
Gotcha. Check this out. All the major online automotive sites in one place. BMW, done. F-150, done.
How's he do it?
I can search nationwide, even those classified sites. Auto Tempest, all the cars, one search. That's how I do it.
There is Max Papis in the Ferrari. As great a race as Ferrari has ever won.
From the virtual Michigan International Speedway, just in time for the green flag restart. Lawson Peel getting the headway over Steven Stempien. A good restart, entering turns 1 and 2 for the first time since the stage 1 finish. If you weren't around for that at the coverage before the commercial break here on VSPEED, Lawson Peel won the stage over Shane Wyatt and Steven Stempien, those 2 Chevrolets that were fighting for second just now on the back straightaway. This will mean, though, that we'll go a little extra laps in terms of stage 2 is concerned. We were only set to go 60. Bradley with that early yellow to close the stage. We're going about 62 or 63 green flag laps if we do not get any yellows. So how much will that affect the strategy moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's going to move the time that you pit, maybe by a lap or 2, but we knew these guys weren't going to make it completely through these stages, so I don't think it's going to change it too much, but it does add a little bit more to that run. And for some of the guys that had thought about short pitting, they might want to consider stretching it further. We might see these drivers come down all at the same time instead of seeing them come in, a group every couple laps.
And we didn't see any green flag pit stops in stage 1 because we had a opportunistic yellow that flew it around lap 37 of the run. So we didn't really see anyone come down pit road under green. Does that change though here in stage 2 with everything going on? Onboard look from Zach Wilson in his RTR Motorsports Ford Mustang Dark Horse. Got a look from behind. That is Brandon Banks in his Geico Chevrolet. First time we call his name into the top 10. He started this race from the back. Got an end-of-line penalty from race control for missing the driver's meeting. Good rebound so far for Banks. They line up the inside, and they've got some help for the first time on the bottom.
So the bottom's working for now. Of course.
Oh, Adcock, turn, trouble off turn 4. Justin Winters, Garrett Brown, and others involved. Jesse Whittington, a playoff driver, collected in the grass. And Ford Mustangs come halting on the front straightaway. Garrett Brown and Aaron Adcock, a part of those involved in this caution on lap 62. As Adcock got hooked into the outside wall hard by Justin Winters. Look at that hard hit into the outside wall from Adcock. He was washing up out of turn 4. And Bradley, I believe they were 3 wide, which is what happened to result in the contact. And the Allen's Legacy Racing Ford gets right into Adcock's machine. They were all single file. We know how quickly things can happen here in the corners at Michigan. 1 second, you're in the middle of just single file action. And then off the corner, you're outside 3 wide.
It looked like Aaron Adcock had came up a little bit there, but he also had a car to his inside. I don't think he had any room to go down. It was just one of those 3 wide scenarios that happened, like you said, so quickly here. There's that little bobble I saw from Harlow there, that it just a little bobble up the track that maybe made Aaron Adcock try to avoid him. And unfortunately, there was no room to his outside to try to do that.
Bit of run out space there off turn 4. You're trying to carry all that momentum. Sure, you have a bunch of lanes to work with, but if you're trying to keep the speed off the corner, it just doesn't do well for you. If you get close like that for Adcock, yeah, he just got in the middle of all that, tried to get out of the way of Harlow, and in turn slapped Jesse Whittington, who was just getting away from it on the inside apron. Maybe we can get a look from his Focus Fuel Chevrolet, but we noted that Whittington picked up nose damage early in the race from a checkup from Dakota Curtis on the backstretch. And we noted how Whittington had such a good start, then fell back, had that negative outcome, and all of a sudden is a bystander in this incident. Let's get a look here with Whittington. Just nowhere to go for Whittington.
I mean, you keep coming down. How far you got to go before you're in the grass? He ends up there anyway because he gets shoved, but it's so hard to tell where that wreck's going to end up because you got a blanket of cars. And, with the hood camera, we had a little bit of an advantage. You might be wondering, well, why couldn't he see that? Well, up on that hood cam, you got a lot more peripheral vision, but when you're right here, this is directly what he's seeing. He doesn't know where that 17 is going to end up. This is his vision. This is all he has.
And that is just hanging on for what he could in the grass. Very bumpy down there, and Whittington, who had a shot at making the round of 8, barely got into the playoffs to start, then barely got into the round of 12. It looks like his playoff hopes dashed here in the Irish Hills. He is now one of the 2 DNFs from Michigan. He joins Chris Progar as those that are now behind the wall. So a huge crash taking out multiple drivers. We note that Aaron Adcock and those that were involved, they are still on pit road just hoping to get those cars fixed. But a rather short field to start is already getting shorter before the end of stage number 2. Now this will give the chance for a ton of the guys, Bradley, to save a bit of fuel. But again, how much fuel will that really save you if you're only going a couple laps under yellow? It still probably will get really close if we're talking strategy to make it to the end of this stage at lap 120, but how beneficial is this caution to save at least a couple more drops?
Well, it's going to help, but I think they're still going to have, if we go green, they're still going to have to come down. I don't think that this was enough because of that extension. Like you said, we added on 2 or 3 laps to this stage. Now we only took away those 2 laps. So we're still, I think, in the same boat of we're going to see green flag pit stops. However, it does group the field back up, and it's increasing the likelihood, especially with some of these drivers that they're in kind of desperation mode with the cutoff line. They have to perform, and so I think they're getting a little more anxious as these laps tick away.
Keep an eye on guys like Zach Wilson, third on that inside lane, and Austin Reedy sitting back in 11th place. Green flag back in the air from Michigan. Another good restart for the race leader. He'll be out ahead by at least 3 car lengths going back to turn 1. Shane Wyatt, the healthy push from Wilson, gets him nosed ahead for second, but here comes Stepien battling for the P2 spot.
Stepien has the roll here. He's almost clear of Shane Wyatt. There he is, finally clear. He can dive down to the inside. That's where he's been rather comfortable, is on that bottom. He'll choose 1 lane higher for the clean air on Lawson Field.
This is almost exactly what we saw off the last restart. Stepien and Wyatt getting the run off the corner, diving down low to make the move, but this time the onboard look from Stepien. No dice, will not try it entering turn 1. He'll be a little more patient this time around, but some bigger movers are now entering the foreground. Brandon Banks, we talked about him up there in that Geico Chevrolet. Zach Wilson, how about Alex Huffman, who we didn't speak much of, finished well in stage 1. And after starting back in 14th, the Richmond winner standing up for himself. Huffman in the top 5.
Yeah, Huffman got, I believe, 5th there in that stage, so he's been hanging around in this top 5 for quite some time. He's gained 10 spots to be here, started back in 14th. He's had impressive run after impressive run, and, you know, he's always in the chat there when things don't work out. And how many times have we talked to him where he's having a good race, and then something beyond his control, he ends up in our YouTube chat saying the car's killed, and then he comes back and finishes good anyway.
Well, honestly, I'm glad that he's transparent enough to give us that information as it happens. Sometimes we can't talk to the drivers immediately after something goes down because we have racing to cover, but Alex does a great job of letting us know, but still, a lot of resilience for the Stewart Haas Racing employee who works for the real-life NASCAR Cup Series team when he's not racing here in the Sunoco Cup Series. He'll stick in line right behind Shane Wyatt. Those are 2 rookie drivers inside this top 5, and those 2 playoff spoilers, if you will, have done remarkably well over their tenure. It is about to be 3 wide. It is Colin Forrester right in the middle of Austin Reedy and Alex Muscarella. They settle it out. That's at the latter half of the top 10, back straight away.
We're going to do it again here in the entry of 3 wide. About 3 rows deep almost there for a second. Reedy trying to sneak his way through the middle. Muscarella pinned down low. I think he's been on the losing end of this 3 wide every time it happens.
Muscarella gets dished out of line. That's the inside lane as Austin Reedy works under Brandon Banks. And again, this is where you got to make your money on the short run. We saw a lot of the drivers in the mid-pack start to slowly back off, not because, you know, they were just letting those guys ahead run away with it, but because they could not on tire wear. So if you can make up that track position as much as you can early in the run, chances are you'll stick with those guys in the draft when this race extends a bit. And when it comes down to what could be a green flag run to stage 2, it may matter. Car in the grass, Bill Schoonover, he holds on to it.
And that one's like 2 or 3 wide in that moment as well for Schoonover. He came out of turn 4, and I think he was just a little bit too low on the exit. Car got wiggly loose. I don't think there was any contact there. But I was watching here with Zach Wilson. He pinched Reedy into the entry at 3 and tried to kind of lean on him a little bit. Now he gets a little contact from Harlow. And there's more contact with Banks. 54 into the wall.
And Banks gets a piece of the wall. 1 car in the grass. It was Richard Swavely in turn 3. That may have been the official cause for the yellow. He got turned on the back straightaway by Chris Shoemaker. And as they were almost stuffing it up for top 5 position, they actually did make contact for about P15. That's where Swavely was running prior to the incident. Here's a look at how it all happened.
don't know if Shoemaker came up or if Swavely came down. From that angle, it was a little difficult to tell. This all happening while we were watching that battle in the 5th position where Banks got into the wall. He got sent to the wall, actually. But right here, it just looks like... that's tough to tell.
Is that a poor side draft, it appears, down the back straightaway. But Swavely goes for the spin. It doesn't seem like either damage for any of those cars. Doesn't seem like it's all too detrimental. Another look from the nose cam. This is from playoff driver Shoemaker. Just a slight contact sends the 32 spinning.
I guess we'll go back and watch here with Brandon Banks.
This is what happens here. Forster, Reedy, from those Fast Banana teammates. It looks like Forster just got into Brandon Banks in the entry of turn 3. Nothing that either of them can do. Not sure, though, if there's a ton of damage for either of them. There's a look on board from the Jacksonville, Florida native of Colin Forster into the corner.
He was moving up there for his entry, and Banks was to the outside. That could have been a lot worse. There's a lot of cars behind Banks. Good save there for the 54.
So it looks like Colin Forster did, in fact, pick up right front nose damage off of that incident. Alex Muscarella will escape off of pit road first. Looks like actually Lawson Peel beat him to it. There's Curtis Kelly, Alex Huffman, Austin Reedy among those that are just taking pit road now. But this will shake things up, Bradley, because for the first time, we have alternate strategy. Your top 4 are staying out on 15-lap old tires, maybe anticipating that they can make it all the way, or if they can pit later if a caution comes out. But this is a worthy gamble for those guys who are making it happen. Only one of those guys was at the back of the field. It's Kip Easley, basically at the tail end of this group. But all of these guys, 1st through 3rd, have been running laps up front. Do you like this call, Bradley, to stay out?
I don't know. I'm without an exact number on what these guys can do. I think right now for the top 4, they're going to have to come in. And I think for Lawson Peel and Muscarella, they could probably go all the way to lap 120. It's going to be tight, but I think they can make it to the end of this stage. So only 7 tire sets, and some of these guys have burned 3 or 4. It's kind of a weird scenario, but I don't know that it's going to be very beneficial because everybody's going to come down pit road during that stage. And they'll be kind of outside looking in for the final stage of the race.
Well, it's even going to get close for those who just pitted now because we're about 47 laps away from stage 2 coming to a close. And again, why I brought up the fact that stage 1 ended so early and we ramped up stage 2 basically right at the jump of lap 60, even a bit before then. So we had opportunity to extend the stage a little longer than it would under green. Oftentimes we'll end the stage at whatever number it is, and we'll go maybe 2 or 3 laps extra under pacing to have pit stops and all of the timing cycles and all that, and then we'll go green, and that stage will be a little shortened, although strategy would still be in the play. But right now, you go a little longer in stage 2. Not even the guys who pitted 5th on back can even make it on what will be about 46 laps at the start-finish line. And those guys at the front still can't make it either, so they'll have to pit an extra time. It's all about which strategy is better, and most importantly, how will the tires react now that we have a proper alternate strategy from those 4 who are staying out. Steven Stepien will get to lead this race with Shane Wyatt on his outside. I'll look at the recap on the top of your screen. We'll see who can get stage 2. It'll be a little while before we write that into the books. Zach Wilson and Kip Easley occupy the 2nd row to give some help. Who's got the right strategy? 74 laps into the books from Michigan. Green flag restart.
Top 4 is going to have the work cut out for him. Zach Wilson, I think, is probably the biggest beneficiary in this because of his points situation. He has to get up here, lead some laps, win a stage, win the race. So for him, track position is key, and he got caught back there. He was very close to what happened with Banks, and he's been part or near a lot of this carnage here for this race. Looks like he's going to take over the top spot going into 3.
And there's Wilson sliding in front of Stepien, new race leader from Michigan. It's the man deep in the playoff fight. Zach Wilson leads it by a car length off turn 4.
And so for the Ford Fresh tires, they haven't really got on the move just yet. Looks like the momentum just now building up the full song. It's probably going to take a couple of laps for the heat to build up in these tires. The guys like Lawson Peel and Alex Huffman that are on Ford Fresh, they're just now starting to play offense.
And for now, the 2 fresh tire cars, they're going side by side. Lawson Peel is giving assistance to his teammate, that 3 Cheat Chevrolet. They're both a part of that Drinkin' Bros Racing camp, so they'll probably work together on the strategy. But some are pushing harder than others. Alex Muscarella doing what he can to run up high, but cannot make anything worth a run. It doesn't appear that the tires are playing that big of a factor. Wiggled from easily as Peel got into the rear end, giving him the draft, but it's going to stack up everyone. And the question is, who's going to lose patience first?
I hope it's nobody. We've seen enough cautions here in, I think, the first couple stages of this race to shake things up. I want to see some green flag pit stops. I want to see how this alternate strategy pans out 35, 40 laps from now. Right now, it looks like it's working, but if we get a yellow, it could save these guys in the top 4 even more. And I want to see if the back half of this field that pitted on that last caution has enough to make it to the end of this stage.
Again, those at the front cannot make it if they stayed out all the way to the end of stage 2. That comes their way at lap 120, so still a ton of laps to go until we get to that point as Curtis Kelly goes side by side with Chip Easley. That'll be the first fresh tire car to break into the traffic of those that have stayed out. And it appears neither can the group that just came down pit road. They're doing it for maybe a different cause to pit a little bit later if this run progresses under green. And that could help those guys if we start lapping some drivers. But for the most part, neither of them can make it to the end. That'll be very interesting to see how that works out. As Peel goes underneath Curtis Kelly, that'll be for 4th place. Kelly finished inside the top 10 last week in a shorter field at Watkins Glen. Kelly went through hell and back from his teammates getting involved in crashes to him actually getting a part of one of those incidents as Austin Reedy ricocheted off the barrier from the bus stop. Kelly, though, was able to rebound and gain some points. Now here comes Stephen Harlow fighting him on the inside.
I mean, we saw that 71 there in that chicane, and it looked like it was total, but able to salvage the day. Of course, you know, there was a few drivers that had problems with that chicane that got totaled throughout that race. And, you know, it almost felt like some of these drivers had the frustrations of losing track position, and those are one of the tracks where you think you can make up a lot of time. There's just specific parts of that racetrack where if you hit it just right, you can make up half a second. But if you mess it up, you can lose the whole race.
And that almost happened to the man sitting in P6, Stephen Harlow. We saw him back off in the bus stop, end up in a situation that dropped him to 13th. And in the span of maybe 20-odd laps, he ended up coming back to 3rd place. So, you know, something can work at the road courses when you get it right. Harlow was one of the faster cars there in upstate New York. And here's this fight with Austin Reedy. That's going to go down for 4th place on the back straightaway. Give it to Harlow, though. He'll have the run off of turn 2. So at what point we'll see, Bradley, drivers save a bit of fuel? We only know that Kip Easley is one of the several cars in the alternate strategy, but he has fallen back quite a bit. And the other guy who stayed out for a little while was Shane Wyatt. He's backed off to P6. Wilson and Stepien continue to command the field, but is it a blessing in disguise to get passed by traffic? Because in a way, it could help you save a bit of gas if you're right in the middle of things in the pack.
Well, the boat they're in, I don't think it matters saving fuel. It might stretch the run to make these tires even out. But I think with how Peel and some of these guys that just pitted haven't really gained any ground, I was a little worried about this call. But now as this run progresses, I actually see a change for the lead here as Curtis Kelly takes it over from the bottom. Maybe we're starting to see those tires that stayed out fall out now.
But now they're starting to attack.
Yeah.
There were 3 wide off of turn 4. Austin Reedy will give the nudge to Stephen Harlow, saying, hey, let's go. I got a race
Wiggle
to try
for
and
the
win.
71.
We're 3 wide. Zach Wilson gets a piece of Colin Forrester, sent him into the outside wall. Could have been a disaster, but we are 2 wide, several rows deep, entering turn 3.
So now this is the mix of 4 fresh tires going on attack and the closing speed. You see Wilson, he's just struggling to stay on this high line and not get into the wall. He actually brushed it on that safer barrier, and he's going to lose 2 positions down the front stretch. I think now the tires are starting to show that they're 15 laps older.
Starting to make a difference. Stepien, though, has fallen only back to 4th place, and he'll hold his ground. Has the draft from Colin Forrester right behind as Stephen Harlow takes over control here at Michigan International Speedway. 83 laps in. Again, we are about 37 laps away from the end of stage 2, so still a ton of laps to go, and a bunch of these guys in the front that pitted recently are now on 12-lap-old tires. Meanwhile, those who have stayed out on 27-lap-old Goodyear Eagles, and they cannot make it on fuel till the end of this stage, neither of them until they're able to save a bit, or if a caution does come out. There's Shane White in this battle with Brandon Banks. That's for P8 on the racetrack. And for the rookie, Wyatt has a new paint scheme tonight from Michigan. That's to honor Breast Cancer Awareness Month that takes place in October. So now that we're on October 6th, we have kicked off Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And Wyatt, much like Jesse Whittington and several others tonight, giving awareness to breast cancer and to how it affects so many women across the world. Wyatt running in P8 right now with his pink and black Chevy scheme.
I was just about to say, between Stephen Harlow and Curtis Kelly, something's got to give here. Harlow leaned on the door of that 71. I think it made it a 10-hour energy car. There was 8 wheels going through corner 3 and 4.
10-hour energy. Never sure if I've heard that before, but I guess it does give him a little more motivation as they're going door to door. And this will make it a fast banana 1-2. How about the team effort? All of them moving up in synchronized fashion. Colin Forrester, who we didn't talk much about throughout the race, was hanging in the mid-pack, found a way to grab stage points on lap 60, and all of a sudden, here he is with a chance for even better points off of stage 2 as long as the strategy pans out. Reedy, remember, started this race on the front row, on the pole, dropped back to 8th place, then got involved in an incident, had to spend a bunch of time on pit road, started near the mid-pack for one of the recent restarts, just now getting back to this front pace as he holds on against Curtis Kelly. Stephen Harlow wraps up your top 3, then Forrester and Stepien bring in the top 5. I'd say this is where the tire fall off is really going to hit guys like Wyatt, Stepien, Kip Easley, and Zach Wilson, because they're starting to lose touch with the pack in front of them.
Yeah, it's not as bad as I thought it would be, though. I mean, 15 lap difference on tires is actually 12, give or take, but there's a lot of fall off for certain guys. I think that their speed overall in that track position, you look at guys like 51 and Zach Wilson, he fell through a lot faster. I want to say that it wasn't a bad call, but now it's starting to look like it might have been. And if you fall out of this top 10, if you're Zach Wilson before the end of this stage, you probably are going to go back and regret that. I think this might be one of those, well, these guys around us, they can stretch the fuel run with the draft. If they can make it to the end of the stage, it's going to be really tight, like you said. It would compound that problem, make it even worse if they have to come down pit road.
And if Wilson doesn't get stage points this time in lap 120, it means that he is for sure in a must-win situation. We talked about how far he was back in points because he did block his land due to unforeseen circumstances. He's 34 points out of the round of 8 cut line. We were arguing that if he could win a stage or get some good points in the first stage and tally that on for the rest of the race, it could help him with a chance of getting at least a decent position, not needing to win the race outright to make the next round. But he doesn't get points at lap 60. He may lose out on points at lap 120 if things continue to pan out the way they have. So it will nudge Wilson further into a situation of, I need to go all out and get this race win. But that could also put Wilson in the situation, Bradley, to where he's going to go all out, guns blazing for an alternate strategy. It could work. but it will be very risky, and it means he'll have to take a larger risk if he wants to push forward for the championship.
He's right on the end of that push now. He's in the 10th position, so Alex Huffman, who does have fresher tires, will be the next car to challenge him. However, we still have to know, for green flag pit stops, what is everybody's strategy going to be? These guys that pitted during that last caution, what's the chances they're going to have to come down? How does that shake out? Maybe they know something that we don't. I know that I've been on the back end of this strategy quite a few times thinking there's no way it's going to work, and then you find you're all brushed with the wall there for the 88, but you find yourself later on, well, I'm in a better scenario because I made that decision halfway through the race.
Well, it all takes one opportunity to give you that headway for a better strategy position, but we'll see what Wilson employs. Remember, he was one of those 4 that stayed out after the recent caution flag, so he's on an older set of tires like Stepney, who you're riding on board with right now, the driver from Boston, Massachusetts. So a lot of those guys do need to come down a little sooner. They are now breaching lap 35 on their stint, so you'd imagine that in the next 10 to 15 laps, they'll start calling for pit road soon. Then it's all on those guys who are now up front, who have cycled in front of this pack, what they can do at this juncture of the race. Harlow and Kelly going side by side, probably not the best view out of their windshield. They'll make contact again, entering turn 1, but I'd say this is good news for Austin Reedy. He's watching that rearview mirror and say, fight, fight, fight. Give me the race lead. I want it by at least a second.
Mistake by Harlow there out of the exit of 2. I think he's starting to see a little bit of red. These two have leaning on each other for about 10 laps now. I think Harlow's just getting a little bit irritated that, Curtis Kelly is there for every entry of every corner. And all Harlow wants to do is try to focus on Austin Reedy, the fact that he's pulled away half a second. But you know that for Reedy and Kelly being teammates, Kelly's going to do everything he can to make sure that nobody's going to get up there and get to that back bumper of the 96.
Well, for one thing, Stempien at the back of this could make an opportunity happen if these guys continue to go side by side as Peel dials up the inside here with Colin Forster on the back end. But with Stephen Harlow, he's a non-playoff driver in the middle of this playoff fight, so he really has no say in what these guys have for the championship's sake. He's just here to run for a race win. We saw him have a lot of pace at Watkins Glen last week that did not go his way because Peel was so fast, number 1, but because of that bus stop mistake that sent him back to 13th and forced him to rally back to a podium spot. And then at Richmond, fighting band for band with Steven Stempien for the lead. One of those faster cars that could have easily won that race. Then it all just went sour for him at the end. Harlow has been picking up a ton of pace over the last several weeks. It's only coming to him that he can get a race win as this season is winding down. So, he'll probably do whatever he can to fight those playoff guys because for him it doesn't matter. He is not running for a championship this year. He'll just try and run for the W. That's all he's got.
Makes the race a little easier when you can focus on just winning it, When you're not worried about stages, you're not worried about what these guys in the playoffs are doing strategy-wise. You don't have a particular car that you have to beat to make up ground. Just come out here and finish first. That's all the difference. And sometimes that mentality can help propel you. I know for Harlow through the regular season it was a little bit different, but here in the playoffs since they've started, he's proven that he has the consistency to be one of these drivers that was in the 16 and the final 12. Just unfortunate that it took, focusing on just winning the race to get him there.
And over the last 7 races, Harlow has started 6 of those in the top 10. So that tells you how fast Harlow is at putting qualifying laps together, but it shows you, it's not the full story. The finishing position for Harlow, about how quick he's been over the last several races in the regular season and throughout a bulk of these Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. A lot could tell that Harlow may be knocking the door for the win. And still in this fight with Curtis Kelly, although they've fallen back to 4th place. So this is only for 3rd on the racetrack as Lawson Peel finds his way by and moves on forward. Behind them, Steven Stempien runs P6. He's got a pack developing behind him. Chris Shoemaker is working under Shane Wyatt with Alex Huffman in the back. And how about Chris Shoemaker? Started this one in 7th place. That's where he sits right now, but he's been rather quiet, Bradley. Often In the playoffs, he's been one of the louder drivers to make statements, and he's been in great point situations. Now here where he's scrapping for a top 10 and picking up position over the long run.
Yeah, I've been really impressed. Chris Shoemaker, and it was, I believe, last week there where I saw him have a solid top 10 day and just was impressed with how he was able to put it all together. You know, he had some struggles early on in this season, and it was mainly because of, I think, trying to drive too fast too early. I think he's learned here, especially at tracks like this, where if you just conserve a little bit in those first two stages, maybe take that 9th or 10th place spot away in the stage, instead of pushing it hard to stay in the top 5, you'll have better results overall. And he's really came to form here since he made that top 12.
Well, for one, look at his last 3 finishes in the series when the playoffs started. 9th at Atlanta, 7th at Richmond, 9th at Watkins Glen. So for one, Chris Shoemaker has been able to turn things around and get the iron striking hot as the playoffs begin. And that's really all you need in a system like this, where wins aren't necessary, but consistency matters a ton if you're able to do it at the right time. Shoemaker did not have the best regular season. He only had 1 top 10. Actually, 2 top 10s that entire regular season. 3 straight over the playoff races. That certainly means a lot. There's Zach Wilson weaving on traffic. He'll go under 3 wide. That's because he went to pit road last lap by. We noticed him on the apron when we were touching on Chris Shoemaker. Wilson was just blending back in traffic. Wilson is a lap down in 23rd, and he's the first of the 4 guys that stayed out over the recent yellow to come down pit road. So my question to you, Bradley Cooper, is that does it put any pressure on Stepien and Wyatt that are running in the mid-pack now to come in?
A little bit. Now, I know that Wilson fell through this field a lot faster, and Stepien still maintains the top 10, whereas Wilson had fallen out of it. So I think right now for Stepien, I think he's just biding his time. He will come down probably within the next 5 laps. Mainly because there are 43 laps on this stint now. He's not going to have much choice. But for him, the ground was a little higher. I think he's probably playing more on the strategy of what he can do to make up ground on this top 5.
Well, for what's going to be interesting here, Wilson will have enough fresh tires to unlap himself and get himself back on the lead lap when the caution comes out for the stage. As of lap 101, we're about 19 laps away from the end of stage 2, as Stepien and Wyatt stay out lap by lap. If they do come down pit road, or if they are forced to come down pit road for any of those fuel situations, they could be just a lap down when that caution comes out, and it will be deciding for only one of them to get a lucky dog spot if they are those first cars that are behind a lap from the leaders. So it will get very unique, and this situation could work out for Zach Wilson. Everyone else comes down pit road. The only caveat is that he may have at least a set of tires that is worse off than everyone else, and he'll have to work with less sets for the rest of this race. Onboard look with Lawson Peel. Austin Reedy right on his tail for the top spot.
Yeah, Lawson Peel took over that lead while we were checking through that field. For all the defense that Curtis Kelly was playing earlier on Harlow, now Curtis Kelly has fallen back to 5th, and he's about 2 seconds back from these leaders. Starting to lose more and more. He doesn't have any draft help either. No cars around him, so he's just going to continue to lose ground. There's Wilson that goes by. And so this is another advantage for Lawson Peel. He can pull some draft. I don't know how long he's going to be able to hang with those 4 fresh tires and 30-lap difference there. As you see Zach Wilson unlap himself. I think him pitting when he did, this might work out perfectly for Zach Wilson to get a stage win.
Well, the good news is that he is on the lead lap, so it'll be good news there. And again, we'll keep tabs on these guys at the front that are crossing the line at this point for 32 laps on their stint. As Stepien and Wyatt conclude lap number 46, and they're still out on track, doing well for themselves. So we'll see that, and probably we'll get real close to the wire as Harlow nudges Lawson Peel on the front straightaway to turn 1. He picked up the spot on Austin Reedy, who does not clap back in 1 and 2. So Harlow could have the chance to steal the race lead, although he'll bobble back in turn 2 and let Peel take this one by at least a couple of car lengths. Lawson Peel was one of the 3 drivers who dominated the lap sled category in our last Michigan race back in Season 6. That was the penultimate race of the season back then. It was Colin Forrester, the winner of that race, Peel and Steven Stempien that led a combined 104 laps in that race of the 120. 86% of that entire race. We've had Austin Reedy lead a bunch of this. Steven Stempien has taken his fair share up front. Now Lawson Peel, who rolled off 24th, has led 31 laps and counting up until now. So it's an impressive stat for last season. We may see 3 new drivers, I guess call it the big 3, that are dominating this one so far.
Starting to see the sun come out a little bit. I wanted to check back in. It's actually went down a degree since we last checked. It's been pretty moderate cloud cover all the way through this race, but with the iRacing adaptive weather, you know, stage 1 was pretty much solid cloud cover. Stage 2 has turned into a partly cloudy day. And this track back up to 94, it could very easily go over 100 for the final stage of this race. And does that change? You know, the strategy that we had with older tires and these guys staying out, if this track gets really hot and greasy, that can make it even worse for these guys in the later half of this race.
And how much more unbearable will that get for Stempien, Wyatt, and Kip Easley, who are still on the oldest set of the tires in the field, and they are just struggling right now. They're still at the edge of the top 10. Stempien's still sitting 9th, so in a possible spot to gain stage points. And so is Shane Wyatt, who will only gain 1. Maybe could help him, but Colin Forrester, who sits in 4th right now, is ahead by a good margin. We'll get some decent points ahead, so they may either even out or it may go to the negative way side for Wyatt here, but you know, they are all just camping on what they can. This is 50 lap old tires for them right now, and for the onboard look on all 3 of them, neither of them are really saving fuel. They're using the top end of 4th gear, shifting to 5th on these straightaways, so there is no sign, Bradley, of any saving from any of these guys. We just got the first signal. Kip Easley, Chevrolet for Drinkin' Bros Racing in this time.
He's the second of that group of 4 that stayed out. And now I think this does put a little bit of pressure on Stempien because I don't think Easley was that far behind. I would look to see Stempien probably come down the next time by.
Well, the good news for a ton of these guys up front is that if Kip Easley pits now, and he's on 50-lap old tires, a 50-lap old gas tank, there's 12 laps to go until the end of the stage. It gets these guys up front to lap 48. So as long as they didn't have any snafus refueling on their last pit stop, or if they didn't save enough to make it till the end, they should be okay. Those tires will be in a tough situation. Wiggle from 2nd place. Stephen Harlow got nudged out of line by Austin Reedy, and it almost sent Harlow for a spin down the front straightaway with 11 laps to go in the stage. Watch this.
Hello. Just seeing if you were awake. Steve Harlow definitely has the blood pumping now.
You know, often on a long run, you can start to snooze off a little bit, and that definitely woke him up. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, he's been awake the whole time, and it's been Fast Banana keeping him alive. He's had Curtis Kelly, where they were leaning on each other for 10 laps. Now he has Austin Reedy going back and forth, and it's always been for the 2nd position. I don't know if Harlow knows it or not, but that leader has benefited as you see the battle now side by side. But every time he's been battling for 2nd, somebody in the lead has been pulling away.
Well, it's allowed Lawson Peel to stretch out the gap. Now Harlow wants the payback. Kip Easley, who just came down pit road, will send it 3 wide. Needs in the attempt to unlap himself on the racetrack. But that will lock Harlow and Reedy side by side. And does that put Colin Forrester in a decision point? He'll try and help his teammate down the front straightaway if he can. But Harlow gets the draft, stays in 2nd. 10 laps to go in stage 2. And here comes Stempien and Wyatt down pit road. So they could not make it till the end.
This is 54 laps, so we know that for this top 3, they're going to make it. This top 4, they're going to make it all the way to the end of this stage. What started out in my mind as maybe a good call, it's kind of went sour. It's kind of, you left the milk on the counter overnight. Let's see how you recover from it, though, in the final stage of this race.
Well, as Kip Easley unlaps himself, Shane Wyatt beats Steven Stepien off pit road. Both of them clocking in at 6.4 seconds in their box, but Stepien coughed up a little bit of time overall in the pit lane. They may fall a lap down. The leaders are coming off turn 2, so it could be the great situation for Stepien and Wyatt. They could stay out theoretically, but it will get real close as the leaders are at full speed. Onboard look with Pio, Harlow latching on behind. It'll be 7 laps to go for the stage next time by.
Harlow's given Lawson Peel a run for his money. You know, the last time around, it was about this time on this stint that Peel started to pull away from the rest of the field. He had stretched the lead out to over a second. Hasn't been the case this time. I think he's going to have company all the way to the white flag.
He's hung on, and this is not the first time we've seen Lawson and Austin Reedy go toe for toe at the end of a stage. We've seen it at other tracks across the schedule, but we have not seen it with Stephen Harlow in an attempt to get his possible first stage win of the season. Actually, this will be his second. He's already picked up one in the 2024 campaign, but it has been a minute since we've seen Stephen Harlow in this position with a chance to win the stage. It'll be 6 laps to go. Next time by, they have left Colin Forrester by himself. So it's realistically a top 3 fight as Steven Stepien is only a couple seconds away trying to stay on the lead lap.
Let's watch Alex Huffman there on that relative. He got by for the 5th position. Got around Alex Muscarella, so that's another spot here in this stage for the 10 car. As we approach the end of that, Huffman's starting to show some strength in the later part. You know, this is the long run speed that we saw the 10 have earlier.
And this is good news for either of them. Both of them will get stage points as long as it stays like this. Just like they did in the first stage, where Muscarella finished in 4th, Huffman locked up a top 5. And now they're looking to go back-to-back top 5s in the stages tonight.
You got to go back to where this started for Muscarella, where he won his way into the final 16. I mean, that in itself, the playoff berth and what he's done with it to get solid finishes now. We saw all the way through the regular season talking about Alex Muscarella just getting spun out or getting crashed midway early in the race, not having the finishes. And it's kind of like what we said with Chris Shoemaker. It just, you know, race after race in the regular season, 1 top 10. I don't even know the stats on Muscarella, but I'm sure they were bad as well. Just a rough start to the season. And now he gets in the playoffs, completely different driver. Complete 180.
Really a roller coaster for Alex Muscarella. A ton of races where he finished in the top 10, 3 of those before his win at Daytona, but a lot of them either beneath the top 20, top 15, or out of the race via a big crash. So for Muscarella, he's seen it all. But you're right, ever since the win, you know, it was a little rocky at Atlanta where he came home 21st, but after that, 3rd place at Richmond, 10th place at Watkins Glen, given everything that happened, it was good news all around for Muscarella. And he'll get stage points here that should keep him above that cut line. That is big news, Bradley Cooper. Steven Stepien gets put a lap down. He can get the wave around with the final 3 laps that remain here in stage 2. But it is big if something else happens, or if Peel and company lap anyone else.
Stepien took fuel only on that stop. I don't think he has the tires to get up here and unlap himself here.
And so did Shane Wyatt. Both of them are getting clocked in at 6.4 seconds. There's Austin Reedy getting shut down by Stephen Harlow at the exit of turn 4. They'll lock side by side at the start-finish line with 2 laps to go in the stage. That could be a runaway train for Lawson Peel, who stays up front by 0.2 of a second.
For Harlow right now, he's just saying, hey, I'm going to try to keep you from getting 2nd place stage points, even if it's nothing here from the stage. It's only a race win that he's looking at. But man, how fun is it though when you're a driver that's not in that playoff and you're kind of dictating the outcomes of things? You're still part of the playoffs because you're going to stop Reedy from getting 2nd place points. And in a battle of inches, it can't come down to 1 or 2 points. You could go back and watch this race and think, that's where I lost it right there. Harlow fighting hard. There's the yellow, and I don't know what happened here. But that's early. We we were going to look at the white flag, something brought out a caution.
It was someone in trouble. This will be the end of stage 2. We're trying to figure out who it was. It looked like Chuck Phelps got involved in something. He was slow off turn 2, but he did get out of line off the corner. He was under the yellow line, so for iRacing rules, that would not constitute a yellow flag. And we would just stay green because everything happened below the racing line. But for all these guys in the back, they were mostly by themselves. Looks like Winters and Swavely were near each other, but Chuck Phelps just ducked out of line. And that's all she wrote, so a rather peculiar yellow. As from the back view of Winters, there's that dotted line all the way at the back end of the group, of that view. Rather, Chuck Phelps just slowing down, and everyone else picking up the iRacing official pace car right now. So a bit of an unorthodox yellow flag brings us under the end, and I believe Josh Lokovitz is just telling us this is stage 2. So either that was the yellow for the stage or a yellow that was brought out incidentally by Chuck Phelps that just ended up bringing out the yellow just in time, but very odd nonetheless. And Lawson Peel sweeps stages here in Michigan as a result.
This goes back to what we were saying with the 88 of Stempien and the fuel only stop. There's a weird set of strategy here for the 88. I don't know if he's trying something that we haven't seen yet, but I'm looking at all the possible scenarios, and now that he's trapped a lap down, the fuel only was probably to try to keep him on the lead lap. It didn't work out. Now I think he's in an even worse situation.
Stempien is getting the wave around now, but he will have to pit about a lap later than everyone else, so he could be saved, but it will be close. Shane Wyatt, who stayed on the lead lap, he is just joining the field right now on pit road. Again, everyone getting the 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles, and away they go. Lawson Peel, who won the stage easily over Stephen Harlow and Austin Reedy. He'll have the lead off of pit road. Going to be a fight there with Harlow. Close enough, though, as Austin Reedy lays back. He'll drop a ton of track position off pit road. And that is a huge bleed for Austin Reedy as Lawson Peel controls the race off. And this is what happened.
Right there. That's all it takes. And that's a big slide. I mean, we've seen slides where they're, 2 or 3 feet past that marker, but that's an entire lane. And that's an extra probably 2 or 3 seconds that he had to back up and figure this out. In the time that he got to the left sides, Harlow was down and away.
So a huge mistake from Reedy puts him all the way back to 9th place. Not the biggest loss of the world, but it is big considering how far up he was in the field. Can regain all of that as we move forward here in this race. Let's get a moment to talk with the Stage 1 and Stage 2 winner, Lawson Peel, the driver from Columbus, Mississippi, has been on a roll so far tonight. Lawson, I'd say that the momentum is just picking up from Watkins Glen, but knowing your history, you're pretty good at this Michigan International Speedway. What's been going right for you over this night so far?
Just trying to take care of it, Kenneth. Just stay disciplined, and it's really easy to just slide through the corners and lose traction here, and I think that's just all about just discipline and I guess keeping the tire temperatures down, and I'm shifting quite a bit, so but happy so far. Definitely found what I need to be doing on the long run here. I'd say I'll last these guys. I keep thinking some of them are gonna try to kind of emulate it and make some adjustments here, but we'll see what happens. I know Stempien kind of is going to be EOL here. I'm sure he'll be coming back through, and see if he gets back up here. But it's been a lot of fun and enjoying it so far. I love this style of racing. So,
well, it's been fun watching you up front. A ton of battles on the racetrack. There's a big strategy ploy late in this race that will have everyone go through, including yourself. We hope that goes well. Best of luck. Congratulations on winning the 2 stages, and we'll hopefully see you at the end.
I appreciate it. Hope so.
That is Lawson Peel, the 2-time champ, rolling on the outside of the front row with Stephen Harlow, who's been impressive all night long on his is inside, ready to react. Brandon Banks and Alex Huffman fill in the inside and outside lanes for row number 2. Pace car down, stage 3 underway from the Irish Hills.
How about Brandon Banks up here in the top 5 for this restart? Alex Huffman, some of these guys that haven't had a chance to challenge for the lead, they're going to take the green flag just outside this lead. They've got a tall order, though, to get around Stephen Harlow, who's been bad fast all night.
Harlow gets right in front of Banks, so it'll make it 1-2-3. Chevrolet down the back straightaway. Alex Huffman, the only car on the inside lane, and look who has stepped into the top 10. Chuck Feltz, the Simrat Market Chevrolet, who rolled off 27th, dead last in this event, now up in the top 10 with a solid running position. He picked up a ton of spots off pit road with getting 4 fresh tires and some fuel. So how about the strategy play for Stevens, his race, turning around in this fight with Huffman? That's for 6th place.
2 rookies fighting door to door here for the 6th position. Looks like the 10 going to be on the bad end of this stick. And you talked about how this track on the inside was fast, but as we've rubbered up that bottom, it looks like everyone's starting to migrate up half a lane, and I think probably by lap 180, they're going to be all the way up to the top.
And for Chuck Feltz, only in his 8th career Sunoco Cup Series start, only 1 top 10 that came at Atlanta Motor Speedway, the first race of these playoffs. So we haven't seen too much of Chuck Feltz, or Chuck Stevens rather, but has done well for himself, picking up experience and running with the big guns here in Sunoco in its final season. He'll go door to door still. Alex Huffman, who is just struggling here, a bit frustrating when you don't have any help on the inside lane. You can gain so much through the corners, but on the straightaways, all of that progress lost almost instantaneously. He'll follow in the train tracks of Brandon Banks as Alex Muscarella makes a move up high. That'll be for 3rd place. So a bit of draft down low, 2 cars as opposed to everyone else up high back to turn 1.
Very mysterious what's happening with the weather. The sun's been out now, but this track temp has dropped below 90 degrees. So we're seeing the opposite of what I thought we were going to see. I thought the track temp was going to come up. It's cooled off 10 degrees since the end of stage 2.
And that's giving Harlow confidence. He'll dive on the inside. Race lead change in 3 and 4. Stephen Harlow, the new race leader from Michigan. As Peel plays heavy defense behind.
How about Huffman now challenging for 2nd?
Looks like that hard work paid off on the inside, right? Zach Wilson, who unlapped himself, put himself in a great strategy point, goes underneath. He'll slide into the podium spot. They're 3 wide as Austin Reedy's now just getting his way through the field. And Alex Huffman becomes the race leader, leads lap number 1 tonight from Michigan. As here comes Harlow back underneath, and this is typical Michigan. Back and forth action. Harlow not giving this one up yet.
3 wide back here. Looks like Stevens on the outside. 2 fast banana drivers. There's Reedy, who had that problem on pit road. He's worked tirelessly to maintain the lead. Now he's fighting traffic. This is kind of the first time today that we've seen the 96 in traffic. Doing a pretty good job with it, though. Gets a little 2-for-1 special through 1 and 2. Now door to door with the 12 of Peel.
Looks like he's using that Lawson Peel strategy that we saw at the beginning of this race, using that inside lane just to gain all that track position. If you didn't see what happened on the last pit stop, Reedy had just overcooked his pit stall entry by a country mile and had to back up all the way, lost a ton of time, fell back to the midst of the top 10, and is just now getting his feet back on the ground as the onboard look shows everyone up high, going back through. And they'll check up downshift at the entry of turn 1. Zach Wilson, we talked about him getting internet recently. He was affected by Hurricane Helene that hit just several weeks ago. And he got internet last night. But Wilson is racing this event without any air conditioning. So he is running 400 miles in Michigan without any cold air in his house. Hopefully he gets it back, but he just said he'll tough it out over the course of the race, and toughing it out, he is in a desperate playoff spot, now pushing Harlow to 2nd place, back to turn 1.
Does he look like he's sweating? I can't quite tell. I know we're watching in 2K here on VSPEED. He's at least got a fan going. I would hope.
All I know is I'm sweating, and I'm in an air-conditioned house right now. So I can't imagine what Wilson is going through, how hot it is. And, you know, you talk about how PCs run hot, how cars run hot. You know, PCs don't run as hot as a race car. That's almost 150 degrees in there on race day in real life. But the PC, if it runs hot for a little while, it heats up the entire room, and that makes the situation worse. So for Wilson, who has internet to load up his PC and get on iRacing, doesn't have air conditioning to cool him off when that PC is heating the room up, plus the fact that he is wheeling this race car for 400 miles, it is a physical task. Trouble! Chuck Stevens back straight away. And Curtis Kelly is involved.
It's all 3 wide coming off of turn 2 there. I think Muscarella was on the outside of that. No, inside rather. He gets into the 71 of Kelly and sends him up into the side of Charles Stevens. And Stempien just sneaks by there on the outside.
That is table tennis on turn 2 exit. Here's a look from the Amp Energy Chevrolet. Stempien running in the back of the field. Remember, he got that end-of-line penalty, was a lap down off the recent yellow, gained his lap back, and this is his vantage point.
Excuse me, guys. I mean, he stayed in it until those cars started to come back up. But I gotta see a blimp camera here. But Kelly, that was a pretty hard hit there from Muscarella.
Muscarella going into this race 6 points above the cut line. Probably did not want to see that happen. Doesn't appear like he gets away with a ton of damage to his race car. But nonetheless, he visits pit road. Actually, yes, there's right front damage on that Chevrolet, so he's got something to address and diagnose on his pit box. Everyone is in, apart from several cars who make this gamble to stay out. Most of the leaders, though, have come in. Colin Forrester and Shane Wyatt are the 2 cars that leave this one out to dry, and everyone else will take service on pit road. Brandon Banks getting away first.
Oh, and Wilson's going to beat that out even more.
What a pit stop by all of them. Zach Wilson, wonderful job, 14.8 seconds. And he beats Brandon Banks to the pit road exit line to pick up 3rd.
Thought Banks was going to get it here.
What is that, 5 wide? Exit of pit road. Richard Swavely in the middle there. Lawson Peel, Harlow, Banks, and Austin Reedy. What an escape. Well, we haven't seen 5 wide at Michigan Racing yet. But we've seen 5 wide on pit road. I'd say that counts if we're talking pure side-by-side racing. But for Colin Forrester and Shane Wyatt, they will make this risk of staying out. 2 of them in different playoff situations. Wyatt beneath the cut line, Forrester above the cut line, but they came into this race tied.
Yeah, that's where I'm really thinking the interest. I was just about to ask you, those 2 were tied. So for the benefits of what they're going to have, right now, you've got Chris Shoemaker, Alex Muscarella, Alex Huffman ahead of them that are behind in this race by a little bit. We saw how staying out, it's about this length. We saw it last time. Worked out for guys like Stempien, Kip Easley. Shane Wyatt's done it twice now. I don't know. I don't know, Kenneth. I mean, I know this stage is a little bit longer than the rest of this race, but it's still I don't think that it's going to pan out the way that they want it to.
Well, let's look at the tail of the tape after our first two stages. Stage 1, Shane Wyatt finished in 2nd. Colin Forrester was 9th. So that gave Wyatt 9 points. Forrester got 2. In Stage 2, Shane Wyatt did not enter the top 10. Colin Forrester finished 4th. That gives him 7 points. That adds up to 9. Bradley, they are still tied as they are leading this race off turn 4 for this restart. So as this race has progressed, nothing has changed between those two. And if we're talking tiebreakers, if they find themselves in that place when this race is all said and done, Dakota Curtis and Lee Adamans decide the driver that advances will have the best average finish over the round. Colin Forrester takes the field back to green flag action from Michigan. It's a good start by the Toyota Camry. Does it all fall away in turn 1? Inside, Harlow got some help from Zach Wilson. Brandon Banks gives it too wide for 3rd place. Stephen Harlow and Austin Reedy still going at it. Lawson Peel, that X-Machine all the way in the background. Banks floats up high. How about a bit of 3 wide, turn 4?
Well, you can tell it's the final stage here in Sunoco Cup Series because this is where they start to utilize every single line on this racetrack. A lot of contact. A lot of movement, jostling for whatever hole they can find. If they can find an advantage, they're going to try to take it, especially on 4 fresh tires. But for Colin Forrester, about 12 laps under green on that stint. He's going to hold on to the lead as of right now.
It was a bit scary there in that last lap off turn 4. Harlow was leaning on Brandon Banks off the corner, and they about got turned around on the straightaway there, but they keep it straight. Harlow falls back to 8th place. A look on board from Wilson as he holds back the crowd. 4th on back.
Won the battle off of pit road. We've seen Wilson up in this top 5 a couple times tonight, but I think he's in the best situation that he's been in all night. He made that call in that first stage where we had the situation of car staying out to come down. Actually, the second stage, he came down pit road a lot earlier, and I think that's why he's in this scenario now where he can capitalize and maybe go up here and take the race lead.
Well, for right now, it will be close. Your top 2 are now going door to door, so it's not a good sign for them as everyone 3rd on back is on fresh rubber. So the last thing you want to do is go door to door with absolutely no drafting help and a fast banana racing driver sitting in 3rd place. No doubt he'll help Colin Forrester at the exit of turn 2, but give the advantage to Shane Wyatt, the rookie leading at Michigan.
I don't think Reedy can afford right now to help his teammate as bad as he might want to. He needs to get up here and get away from the rest of these guys and have 4 fresh tires. If he can put a couple of cars between him, that could help.
And Reedy will not assist his teammate. Wilson on the inside of Forrester. That's up for debate. That's 3rd place as Huffman sits back in 5th. And for Forrester, who wants to continue his best average finish in the playoffs, as he has 6, the best of anyone so far in the championship category. Forrester wanting to get win number 2 in the Irish Hills. Onboard look from Stepien sitting back in 11th, trying to crack into the top 10.
They came out of turn 2. He was challenging Lawson Peel, but he got stuck behind Richard Swavely there, who didn't get a very good exit. So he ends up losing 2 spots because of that. Now has Steve, actually Kip Easley on the outside, and there's a dive into turn 1. He's just trying to get clear so he can get back to the outside.
Well, that won't work. It appears for a split
51.
second. Carlos, Zach Wilson. And he stays onto it and saves the race car. He'll merge back into traffic right around where Steven Stepien is on the outskirts of the top 10. But that was scary for Wilson, who could have dumped his race car off turn
2. Inside of Colin Forrester has older tires, but there's the contact right there. Close call.
But a big time save for Wilson, keeps him in it. He'll lean on Steven Stepien at the exit of 2. Now we're 3 wide in the midway of the top 5. Stephen Harlow trying to find his way. Chris Shoemaker on the outside. And 2 of those Drinking Bros Racing Chevrolets down low. Banks and Peel working together as Alex Huffman shoots for the inside. He's got to look for the race lead. By Huffman, not of sufficiency, as Reedy will make the move up high. Colin Forster follows suit, but it could give enough space for Huffman to slide back in line. Remember, Wyatt and Forster stayed out. Caution flag is out. Richard Swavely spinning in turn 3. Like contact with Dakota Curtis down the back straightaway. Aerial view.
Yeah, he came down across his nose there. Did that a couple times tonight with Swavely, and I think he was on the other side of it earlier. They just kind of met up. There's a turbulence on this car.
Curtis going over the radio and apologizing for Swavely on that incident. Obviously, no intent from either party. But it just looks like the side draft is going wrong. That seems to be where drivers are crossing that line, right, Bradley? Where you see you get a little close, you want to side draft that guy to keep him on your side and chop out a bit of air from the back end of the race car, lose them a couple miles an hour. But in turn, if you get a little too close, you fly too close to the sun, you just get burned. In that sense, that's what happened there with Curtis. Just getting a little too flirtatious with that quarter panel of Swavely's machine. Is what's the call on pit road? Colin Forster's in. And it appears everyone else fakes out, including the race leader Shane Wyatt. Some more in the back pitting. Curtis Kelly, Alex Muscarello among those in the playoff field. But Forster says, yeah, I've had enough on the old tires. I'm going to come in this time.
Not surprised with Forster coming down. I don't think he was really faking, but I thought Shane Wyatt would probably come down as well. Although he does have the race lead, so it's kind of hard to give that up. I think with Forster, he'll lose about 10, 12 spots here. It's going to be a little bit tougher for him to work his way back up. Again, it goes back to that points graphic that unfortunately we're watching there for about 3 minutes, but it goes back to how tight this is. Shane Wyatt probably thinking, hey, I have a little bit of an advantage now. We still have 60 laps to go, though.
So as we roll with 56 rather, laps remaining, can't do math, here for Michigan, we'll try and dial up the driver of the number 32, Richard Swavely, who gets involved in this most recent caution. All right, there's an audio there to join in. Richard, welcome to the broadcast booth. Unfortunate situation there down the back straightaway. Walk us through what happened from your perspective.
All I can figure out is I think I got a little bit of deja vu there, because that's twice that's happened in the race so far. But nah, Dakota apologized over the race chat. He just came up a little too high. Everybody's trying to side draft here, and definitely easy to misjudge that. So nothing big. I'll drive back up to 10th again. I got done 3 times already.
And with this racetrack, it seems to dial in waves of losing or gaining track position in bunches as opposed to methodically working your way up or down from the field. How difficult has it been from your perspective to make passes on the racetrack and or keep position on the racetrack with everything that goes on specifically on the front end of the fresh tire run?
The biggest thing is the tires here seems really easy to overheat the tires. You can definitely get in a lot of trouble early in a run by doing that. So, surprisingly, it's just a lot of tire management.
Well, Richard, I know it was a tough spin there, but you're back on track and still with a chance to keep it in with a little over 50 laps to go. Thank you for joining us and best of luck on the restart.
10-4.
That is Richard Swavely, driver of the number 32, former Championship 4 driver in this series. I believe back it was season 3 here at Michigan where he ran for a Sunoco championship. Could not complete that, but he rejoins the field at the back end of the group that is in P17 as it stands. Not that it's the worst situation in the world. We've seen drivers gain position over maybe 1 or 2 laps to crack into the top 10. Not the worst case possible scenario for Swavely, but he'll log in line and see if he can regain some of that track position loss from the spin. Austin Reedy and Shane White, your front row for this next restart at lap 146. A quick reminder that these guys need to make one more stop before this race is all said and done. Off turn 4, Wyatt to the green flag first. Restart lap 146.
I believe that's the first time we've had Plankton do an introduction on VSPEED.
You know what? That's something that you have on Discord where, you know, if you just join a chat, you can play a soundboard. I've had a driver in interviews have a tick-tick boom sound, and it would go off and scare me every time I join them in the broadcast group. But nonetheless, back to the fireworks on track. Wyatt and Reedy are deadlocked. They bump each other in turn 4.
Reedy gets the bad end of that. He ends up having Banks, and now Huffman to the inside. Lost appeal all over the back bumper of Brandon Banks. Here comes the 51.
Threading the needle is Zach Wilson, but he read the tightrope there. He gets bumped by Harlow in turn 1, and he could have easily collected everyone in the field. He almost turned Lawson Peel on the front straightaway, and now Brandon Banks off turn 2. Has a run at the lead, he'll lose it, get the bump from Peel, and this one is not over yet. Turn 3.
There's another dive. We watched Brandon Banks. He's probably Lawson Peel-esque on how he's been diving into these corners, and he's going to get a good enough nose over, but I don't think he's going to have enough down the backstretch. It's that drag down the straightaway that's just not enough here.
And there's a bit of contact. Banks got into Wyatt. They'll touch once, twice, and almost 3 times in the middle of the corner. Wyatt is not giving up for the lead.
That's 5 times all the way through. And Peel's got contact from Huffman.
This is wild racing at Michigan, and Brandon Banks looking to lead his first lap of the race. He's got the lead off turn 4. And Wyatt in the rearview mirror with nothing to help.
There's some more leaning on each other there in the entry of 1. Zach Wilson and Chris Shoemaker door to door on the entry of the corner. It's 3 wide behind them. There's Stympian in the middle. Looks like the intensity has turned up about 150% in this top 10.
And the playoff drivers are starting to emerge. Colin Forrester getting moved out of the way by his teammate in the entry of turn 3. Now he's in the middle 3 wide. Stympian, the on-board look, gets nudged by Kip easily. 4 wide for a moment. Zach Wilson, Chris Shoemaker, Lawson Peel, Shane Wyatt, and the new race leader, Alex Huffman. All of them running for a Sunoco Cup championship. Wyatt, remember, at the edge of the cut line, barely outside of the bubble.
There's 4 wide off of 2. It's not going to work.
And Wilson gets turned by Forrester and company. He'll be sideways. They'll save it. And they'll hang on to each other to evade any other damage, but the yellow flies with 50 laps to go. And does this have everyone come down pit road with a chance to make it to the end?
I think everyone's going to come down. I think you have to.
Well, 4 wide at Michigan can work for a bit until it doesn't. And again, it's just Bradley trying to keep momentum off the corner. You're inevitably going to run up high and wash up. That's what happens there. The space just goes away.
Wilson knew it. He had to come down and door check Reedy. He knew that he wasn't going to make it through there. And how about the 4 Shoemaker sneaking through that?
Shoemaker was directly in the middle. He hooked Wilson. He had nowhere to go, but escapes with minimal damage, maybe if not any at all. I'd say that's a wonderful job by everyone. I thought this was going to be a big one off the back straightaway. But the worst was that Wilson caught the wall for a bit, didn't even bump it that hard, and then just gets saved by Forster. They hang on to each other, rolling down the back straightaway. Wilson and Forster, too, keep their track position, so maybe they just escaped. All of them did. With a lucky scenario, they're all going to come down pit road behind the race leader, or behind second place. Alex Huffman will stay out on 18-lap old tires, so that adds another strategy to the equation. But Banks brings everyone in with 48 laps to go.
This late call here for Huffman, I don't know that this caution's going to stretch it far enough for him to make it to the end. Looks like Curtis Kelly is going to win the battle off of pit road here. Down and away, Alex Muscarella. We shake up the top 10 again.
How about 3 different strategies then? Huffman on old tires and running fuel. Curtis Kelly, Alex Muscarella, and Bill Schoonover come out of pit road 2nd, 3rd, and 4th with fuel only. Everyone 5th on back, 4 fresh tires, and a splash of fuel. So how about it? What a strategy call this is. I'm not sure, though, Bradley, if this pays out for Alex Huffman in this scenario. He's 17 points above the cut line, so maybe the risk will not be that bad if he doesn't come away with it, but no, you have to anticipate another yellow if you're coming in, because he has to save, and right now he cannot make it till the end.
Yeah, he's got to save an additional 10 laps, and the rest of this field probably good to go if they took fuel at the very least. We know that they can go 48, 49 laps. We've seen it once already. A few drivers come back in to top off. I think for that stint to 48, 49 laps, you do have to save a little bit. If you come back in and top off again, you pretty much wind this thing up all the way. But for Huffman, he needs another yellow. He probably needs 2, honestly.
So what a strategy call this will be. And a strategy call, too, for Kelly, Muscarella, and Schoonover staying out, as we'll find out how this all settles down in the final 47 laps. So it's Alex Huffman, the leader. Curtis Kelly, 2nd. Muscarella, Schoonover, and White, your top 5. A short break here on VSPEED, but don't go anywhere. More Sunoco Cup Series action on the other side from Michigan. Different strategies in the final stage with 47 laps to go. That's what's at stake here at Michigan International Speedway in the round of 12 cutoff for the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. Alex Huffman, Curtis Kelly bring us back to green flag action from Brooklyn, Michigan, and the start is all in favor of the Huffman machine. Muscarella and Kelly set to fight for 2nd place in turns 1 and 2. Watch everyone 4th on back. Starting with Shane Wyatt, they are on 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles. How much do they gain on the restart?
I mean, you got the 48 here of Muscarella, the 71 of Curtis Kelly that took fuel only on that last stop. They went side by side there briefly. They essentially have the same tires as Huffman. As you see some 3 wide back here in the middle with Austin Reed and Lawson Peel down at the bottom. Doesn't look like the diving to the inside is working quite as well as it did earlier in the race for Peel.
Well, remember, this could change in about 5 or so laps as long as they get a good enough run through this corner. If they can beat those guys on the older tires in the next several laps, it could mean a big difference, especially with the Drinking Bros Racing teammate in hand in the form of a Geico machine. Brandon Banks on the outside. Peel won't go with him this time, but it's Austin Reedy and Shane Wyatt who are starting to emerge and make waves at the front. Wyatt puts in front of Zach Wilson. That moves into fourth place as Muscarella searches for the lead up front.
Put this guy in a must-win scenario to play off Bird. He's put together a string of top 10s. He said a little shaky in Atlanta, but here he is challenging for the lead on Alex Huffman, 2 playoff drivers. Mano y mano, same tires, a little bit different fuel strategy. 48, and this could pay dividends. This could be another one of those race wins.
Alex Huffman searching to become one of the winningest rookie drivers in Sunoco Cup history. If he's able to get this one from Michigan, it would be win number 3. That would tie him with Steven Stepien for second most wins in the calendar behind Lawson's 4. They are side by side for second behind. They were 3 wide for a moment further back then. Lawson Peel is struggling to make moves on the inside. He tapped the apron about a lap and a half ago. And how much of a frustrating situation is this for Reedy and Peel as they continue to work down low, but with nothing going their way off the corner?
Well, it's absolutely frustrating because usually at these races, and especially in this car, 13, 14 laps on tires compared to you, and you pass them like a rocket ship. You're seeing a struggle here just to get to the back bumper as you see 3 wide. That's how multi-groove this racetrack is for the lead.
3 abreast for the top spot. Who wins it off turn 2? Huffman has the bump from Zach Wilson. The momentum gets the Ford Mustang Dark Horse in the lead. But for how long? Muscarella lunges again with Curtis Kelly hanging in the middle. How about 4 wide?
We're thinking about it. Peel's going to probably take it there. So much momentum off of turn 4.
And there is no one to help Zach Wilson in the middle. He'll have to lay off before turn 1 and pick a lane. He'll stay in between Banks and Wyatt. They'll be 4 wide. That's for 5th place. Turn 2.
And they lean on each other again. Couple more little taps there. Here comes the 16. There's Stepien pinned against the wall. The blimp camera's the only way to sum this all up because they're 3-4 wide from second place back.
It's a panoramic view from the front to about 11th place. They are all over the place and still 3 wide. Peel is leading the outside charge with Huffman and Stepien to help, and Brandon Banks has Colin Forrester in the middle and some help for Zach Wilson. Finally, Garrett Brown, the season 1 champ. First time we call his name into the top 10 after starting 22nd and after being involved in a crash earlier on. But it's about when this pot will boil over. Peel to 3rd place. Muscarella in the race lead.
Back at it again here. More 3 wide. Stepien stuck in the middle here. Muscarella with the lead. Curtis Kelly. Lawson Peel up to 3rd. Still frustrating moments here for the 12. He can't get clear.
Make the argument that Alex Huffman could save fuel in the middle of this pack, but with how it's going on this run, if you make one little mistake and if you lay off the gas for just a second, there's the rest of the field. Wyatt is loose. It catches Huffman and Bill Schoonover. They keep it straight, and we are staying green with 40 to go.
You were just about to say he could save fuel, but what if he gets caught up in an accident and it happened right there? Pretty minimal damage, but it's one of those things that you got to account for when you start falling through this field, and especially with how they've been going 2-3 wide the whole time.
And how much damage is assessed to Shane Wyatt? He's got some right front dents on his Chevrolet. It doesn't take him out, but remember, he is tied with Colin Forrester for that final spot in the round of 8. The last thing he needs is to be involved in a crash 1 or to be taken out of the top 15. Secondly, Dakota Curtis is on the inside there, and he'll try that pass. So Shane Wyatt's in trouble. Kelly and Banks lean on each other. Turn 3 as Lawson Peel eclipses to 2nd place.
And here's another needle thread here for the 51 of Zach Wilson. He's not shy about taking it 3 wide. He's done it several times. He'll benefit big time this time around, up to 4th.
something's got to give in these final laps. And we know for a ton of them, they can theoretically make it on fuel. It will be very close for all those who came in for either fuel only or for fresh tires and the fuel. But you got to walk a thin line there, Bradley, if you really want to make it on strategy comfortably. I'm not sure whether any of them are thinking about it right now because they haven't settled into a long run, and it's been too chaotic to worry about it. But at some point, they've got to start laying off and start giving themselves a little bit more of a cushion as Peel lunges in, and he's got the lead once again.
No, I don't think they're thinking about it at all. They're thinking, how many spots can I gain here? Almost contact with Muscarella and Brandon Banks off of turn 4, or off of turn 2. This has been back and forth. You don't have time to think about it.
So it's Peel, Banks, now Wilson, Stempien, and Muscarella, your top 5. That's liable to change in about 3 to 5 seconds. Here comes Reedy back to the inside. He'll steal away 5th. Look for 3 wide under Stempien in turn 1. Boy, Reedy on the comeback ever since he made the mistake on pit road. He is fighting for his playoff life.
Gonna get some help here off of turn 2, and Steve Stempien. I know he's not really fighting for his playoff life, but he's probably fighting just to get up here and have a good finish. He got caught behind on the strategy. Been a while since we've mentioned his name. He was up front for the start of this thing, but for the next, probably, I'd say 2 stages there, he's been really quiet.
He has been really quiet, but he's finally back into it, which is the good news, and there is still a lot of time left to go in this race. Remember Austin Reedy, we talked about how he fell off from the playoff fight, and he's been able to advance 2 rounds, or at least 1 round. He may advance to 2 if he can survive here at Michigan, but he hasn't had the greatest playoff outcome. 10th at Atlanta, 22nd at Richmond, and 18th at Watkins Glen. So it's just been a tenure of bad luck, a stint of roughness for Reedy. But the Delaware native can finally breathe in 3rd place with Brandon Banks and Lawson Peel commanding the charge up front. Those are 2 Drinking Bros Racing Chevrolets as Wilson and Stempien do battle for 3rd place. Remember, Wilson is in that situation where he didn't pick up any stage points, so he has to go out and win this race. It's more about how he does it, coming to 30 laps to go.
Remember, the 51 of Wilson got turned across the nose of a car just a few laps ago. Very lucky to not pick up substantial damage and still be able to hang with this top 5. See Stempien clear. I want to go back to talk about Austin Reedy. You mentioned there, he led the points in the regular season winless. For how many weeks? It was almost 10 weeks, I think, that he was up front and just, consistent, getting stage wins, getting great finishes, but winless and still winless.
And he is one of 5 playoff drivers currently in this round of 12 that have not picked up a win this year. That includes Justin Erb, that includes Chris Shoemaker, that also includes Jesse Whittington and Shane Wyatt. None of them have been able to see the checkered flag this year, but for Austin Reedy, it's been a situation of when he's going to get it. He's been the fastest car compared to many week in and week out for many races of the season, but has not panned out to give him a win, maybe 2nd or 3rd, but not enough to capture a checkered flag. It can change tonight, and if it does, it would be in dramatic fashion. He is leaning on Brandon Banks, who is just giving it all that he can to just stay into this top 3, but it will not go in his way. The Geico machine falls back to 4th.
And Brandon was saying, okay, I'm a teammate here. Lawson, I'll do whatever I can. Unfortunately, he let a couple through, and now we're going to see what happens. They're at the gates. They get through. Now they're inside the castle, battling for the lead to the outside. I thought Peel might come up. He wasn't clear. And for Reedy, it's been an up-and-down day. For Stempien, it's been an up-and-down day. And I think Lawson Peel has just kind of been making the right calls with the strategy. We found out here with 30 laps to go. It's come back right to where it started.
Well, for Peel, he told us in that interview that he's just having fun. This is a track that he thoroughly enjoys. and a track that he likes to run well at. He is a former winner here in this series. That was back in Season 5 of the Sunoco Cup Series that he picked up the W and led a ton of laps in Season 6's edition of this race and brought to his second championship. So Peel looking to go 2 in a row, while Austin Reedy desperately searches for his first win. We saw about a lap or two ago, Reedy tried to reach his hand out for the lead, instead found his fingertips at the outside wall and scraped it quite a bit in front of Steven Stempien. It didn't lose him a ton of time, but at some point, Bradley, that desperation could kick in enough that adrenaline comes in, probably at the worst time, and even worse for Reedy now. Off turn 4, loses the outside lane. Stempien steals second at the stripe.
So now it's a matter of who does Lawson Peel want to defend more, the high line, the low line. Both these cars could take the lead away from him. 20 laps on the stint, still 28 to go. I think this is in Lawson's favor. If he can maintain this lead, he shows that he can pull away from the rest of this field. He's done it once already today.
And for all these guys, it appears that if we go the rest of the way green, they will be on lap 48 of their stint. We saw that Stempien, Shane Wyatt, and Kip Easley went as much as 51 to 54 laps on their stint. Watch 3 wide behind as Reedy searches for the lead. Garrett Brown in the middle with Zach Wilson and Stephen Harlow inside and outside. Some great racing still left to go in this top 5, but Peel is not giving up for the lead. He'll stay up ahead off of turn 2.
Seventh place on up. They've pulled away 1.5 seconds roughly from Colin Forrester. Zach Wilson, who I think lucked out getting turned across the nose, not picking up a lot of damage. And how about Garrett Brown? He was caught up in some stuff in the middle of this race. For him to be up here in 7th spot, he's having a stellar day.
A solid rebound for the Advanced Auto Parts Ford Mustang Dark Horse for Prestige Worldwide Racing. He is the OG champ of this Sunoco Cup Series. And for Brown, who made the race at Watkins Glen but ended up 16th and disconnected rather early in that session, is looking to get a solid finish tonight from the virtual Michigan International Speedway. He hasn't picked up a top 10 since Daytona back in late August, so we'll keep an eye on that. Door banging for the lead. Lawson Peel wants it back in turn 1, but Reedy's going to make sure he shuts the door back to the corner.
Leaning on him quite a bit there out of 4 to try to pinch his exit, but Lawson Peel had so much speed off of that corner. I don't know how he did that being that low. Now he's going to close the door on Reedy. They're going to bump draft down the backstretch as they continue to pull away from Steve Stempien, Stephen Harlow, and Brandon Banks, the 3rd through 6th position. Losing some ground.
That's what they'll hope for. That 3rd on back continues to get sent away and held at bay from any type of infliction toward the battle for the race lead. As you look on board for Wilson, he sits inside the top 5. They flush Brandon Banks in turn 1. For Reedy here, as long as it stays green, he'll have to hope about having the best long-run car, which up until now, it's been Lawson Peel. There's been no one to give him any competition, any resistance for that matter. But again, we haven't seen these guys in a full long green flag run, and that takes them to green flag pit stops. There's always a caution that comes out in the middle of that stint. It hasn't allowed for full long green flag racing. If it does here with about 24 laps to go, you got to figure, Bradley, that Reedy has to lay off a little bit. He cannot be full aggressor, battling for the lead every lap, because as much as he dials up the inside and tries to take the spot away, it's every lap that he's wearing down that right front tire. And as the laps progress, if it doesn't get any better, if he doesn't start taking care of the rubber, Reedy could be just as good as gone if we are talking about the race win.
And you also got to factor in that every time they go side by side, that's giving Steven Stempien and Stephen Harlow a chance to make up ground on you. You put Lawson Peel in front of you in bump draft, you can pull away a little bit, then it's just you and him for the final 5 laps of this race. And I think he's probably listened in to the wisdom of what you were saying, Kenneth. Just take a break here. Don't try to challenge for the lead just yet. You still got roughly 12, 13 laps or 22 laps to go. There's no reason to push it right now because Lawson Peel has been the fastest car in the long run.
And he's got 2 different wars right now. Reedy does, but one is already won. He's picked up 13 stage points tonight after finishing 3rd in stage 2 and then coming home in 6th place in the first stage in lap 60, meaning that he is theoretically above the cut line, given the situations from guys like Chris Shoemaker or Colin Forrester, or the guys like Shane Wyatt who picked up damage, and obviously the struggles from Jesse Whittington and Justin Erb, who may be indeed knocked out of the playoff fight with the damage that he picked up so early in the race as he sits 6 laps down. Reedy right now is advancing to the next round, but he is so close to what could be his first win in a long time. Reedy hasn't picked up a W since July 30th of last year at Richmond Raceway. And that opportunity came and went several weeks ago at a track that he's been known so well as being so competitive at. So it's a war of trying to stay composed and keep yourself alive in the playoff fight. 20 laps to go this time.
I mean, imagine leading the points for that long without a win. That shows the consistency of the 96 team, what they've been able to put together all season long. A win would just make it that much sweeter. It solidifies that you were in this playoffs, not just based off of showing up every week, but now you have the talent, you have the speed, you put it all together, you get a win, it builds that confidence, and at the later portion of this season, we've seen what wins can do for some of these guys, like Alex Muscarella, like Alex Huffman, that they get a win and suddenly they're in top 10 every single week.
Well, don't look now. That 3rd place car is Stephen Harlow, and he is faster than both of the drivers up front. He set a 39.815 the last lap, better than Peel's 31.888, and better than Reedy's 39.936. So for Harlow, now he's an added factor to this fight for the top spot with 19 laps remaining.
I think somebody's been quietly saving tires like Reedy, like you mentioned Reedy should be doing. I think that's what's happening right now.
You know, he had the opportunity to lay back in the top 5, gauge the situation, see what was going on, then get by everyone that's 4th on back now. Getting away from Banks, Brown, and Stepien, who, remember, were fighting really aggressively at the start of this run. And Harlow just let it all happen in front. Laid back, didn't waste his stuff. And here he is, trying to find some clean air, arc the car in the right place to steal 2nd and potentially get the race lead in crunch time. Harlow still in pursuit of his first career victory on board with the Chevrolet on the front stretch.
I think this is a good look of what you were talking about last week at Watkins Glen with those diffusers. Remember last week there was probably a good 4 or 5 inches of clearance and the diffuser completely different shape. Now you're looking at the bottom of this car. It is sleek all the way from nose to tail. No entrapment of air underneath these cars. They are built for speed and aerodynamics.
Yep, a lot more downforce too on the rear end of this car, so you won't find yourself going sideways as much. Reedy is clamping down on the inside, and he'll wash the dirty air to Harlow, but it stays 1, 2, 3, separated by at least a 1/10 of a second. As 4th, 5th, and 6th, they have also gone nose to tail. And they're starting to work together a bit, so they're picking pace up on your race leader. So, in fact, we could see an accordion effect, Bradley, take shape over the next 16 laps, just as long as these guys behind are clocking in faster laps, which right now, they seem to be for the most part. So, this is far from over. Even if we're talking tire wear, we've got at least 6 cars that have contention in this race.
Looking at the math here, and I'm going to do this on the fly, but a 10th faster with 15 to go. They're about a 1.5 seconds behind. That puts them at the doorstep of this top 3. This time around, though, top 3 were faster, so it evened out. I don't know if they can catch him in time. You look back here deeper with the guy in a must-win situation. He's got a lot of traffic. Actually runs into the back of Colin Forrester. That's Zach Wilson. He's fighting for his life back here. He has been struggling to stay in the top 10 all day, even with strategy and trying to just do whatever he can to be up here and have a fighting chance. Unfortunately, falling out, looks like he might lose the top 10 here soon.
Yeah, as long as this race stays green and where Wilson stands, he will not make the round of 8. Again, that's because he missed Watkins Glen last Sunday because he lost internet and power due to the effects of Hurricane Helene hitting his area. So it's not really a situation that's his fault. He just had to work with what he could. But he's in a real tough situation. That's a fast banana sandwich if I've ever seen one.
It is.
3 wide off turn 2. It won't work. At least it looked like it didn't work, but Forrester somehow let Wilson go without hooking him into the wall.
Heads up move there by Forrester to lift out of the throttle. I think he knew he was going to run out of racetrack. You know, Colin Forrester is definitely in a situation where if he gets wrecked out, it could spell disaster for him. He's got the 27 tied with him here in points, and Shane Wyatt's back in 20th. He's actually at threat of going, well, he is a lap down now, 2 laps down. This race is falling apart, and Reedy, contact.
And Reedy is not happy over the radio with Wyatt. He says, this is ridiculous. He does not like the fighting here with the rookie driver who right now is losing the fight for that last spot in the round of 8 to Colin Forrester, who, like you said, Bradley, is running in the top 10. And they are 3 wide back there, and it's allowed Steven Stepien, Garrett Brown, and Brandon Banks to catch up to Reedy and make this a proper fight. 12 laps to go.
This is for a podium. I know that 27's not happy that he's 2 laps down, but he's got to let these guys go. He really doesn't have a dog on this track right now. It's unfortunate for him because we were talking about him leading the race just a few laps ago.
Reedy at jeopardy of being bounced out of the top 5, as Garrett Brown will not make this easy. Neither will Shane Wyatt, the lapped car, just trying to stay ahead. But they are not liking this situation. At least Reedy is not. Sitting in 3rd place. Alex Huffman, remember, stayed out a ton of laps ago. He could not make it on his tank of fuel.
Reedy
so
let him
he
know.
is on pit road. And there's Reedy back down low on Wyatt as Garrett Brown and company try to settle out their positions.
We'll jump back here a little bit further with Curtis Kelly in this battle with Colin Forrester. The fast banana guys trying to get away from Kip Easley, Richard Swavely, Alex Muscarella. This is just inside the top 10. Little door check there on Swavely. Swavely said during that break, or during that caution, that he would race his way back to the top 10, and here he is.
And this is good news for all of them. They could make the round of 8 here with their finishing positions. Curtis Kelly started this one 17 points above the cut line. He should be okay. And the same will go to Forrester, who will win that fight against Shane Wyatt, just as long as it stays this way with 10 laps to go. And with the likes of Muscarella there too, as Reedy and Wyatt again lean on each other. This is getting ugly back here on the back straightaway.
I don't think Reedy's going to take much more of this. If I'm Shane Wyatt, I'm going to let them go. I don't think I can do this much more.
But he's not. He's going to get the push from Stepien. They're 3 wide, front straightaway.
This can't work out well. I don't like what I'm seeing with 10 to go here.
It is looking like a pivotal caution. Brandon Banks in the middle of 3 wide. Stepien hanging on up top. There is the fresh tire. Alex Huffman, who just came down pit road. Garrett Brown is leaning on him on the back straightaway. And once more, Austin Reedy cannot crack in front of Shane Wyatt. And there's Huffman finally breaking free. He says, I'm out of here. I'll see y'all later.
See ya. You got fresh tires, you got to get them. You just passed 5 cars in 1 corner. But for Reedy, now it's one of those things that, okay, we finally got clear. But how much stuff did Reedy use up trying to get by the 27?
It took a lot out of him. He's still defending, though, for 3rd place. That is a podium position at stake. Meanwhile, up front, it is getting good. Stephen Harlow is starting to close in on your race leader. He has picked up at least a car length or so on Peel over the last lap. He had a 39.865. Peel clocked in a lap at 40 seconds flat. And off turn 4, Stephen Harlow has a look at the race lead. Will he dive for it in turn 1? No. 8 laps to go, this time from Michigan.
Gonna see where the weak spot is and press on it. That's what Harlow's doing right now. He's gonna continue to watch this line, try to imitate what the 12 is doing. He's got there. No reason to show your hand just yet. If you know what the weakness is, wait until the last couple laps to try to make this pass. That's my analysis on this whole situation. You know you're faster. Use it when it counts the most.
The last thing that Harlow wants to do is dial up the inside when he does not have enough momentum and cannot clear Peel. They'll go side by side, and the worry is not that Brandon Banks in third place will catch up. It's just a matter of stalling out for the lead and having Peel win the fight from the high side. Alex Huffman will play a role in this, but good news is that it'll be on the back straightaway, so he'll gain the spot in turn 3, but can that eliminate a lane for Lawson Peel in the final 2 corners? 5 laps to go, next time by.
That's pretty clean there for the 10 of Huffman. I don't know exactly. I know that he stayed out. We didn't get that yellow that he needed to bail him out of that situation.
This is our longest green flag run of the race. It'll be 4 laps to go at the cross of the start-finish line. Brandon Banks has gotten by Austin Reedy. That's decided for third, and no one else left to fight. Meanwhile, back here in the top 10, it is a hornet's nest. Colin Forrester got it to the side of Alex Muscarella, but the Lowe Chevrolet got ahead. On-board look from Easley, who sits 9th.
A lot of yellow spoilers here battling for this top 10.
And these are guys that want to just cap this one off after what's been a chaotic night. Easley and Swavely, not playoff drivers, but Swavely did a wonderful job of recovering back into a top 10 spot after spinning. And on the back straightaway, Stephen Harlow is there for the lead. He's catching up to Peel. They got real close as Peel defended the very inside. But what's left from Harlow as we pick up 4 laps to go from Michigan?
On that defense, I think there's one of 2 options here. Harlow's got the speed on these exits. He could use that to his advantage. He could take maybe the high line on the back stretch if Lawson Peel wants to keep diving down and try to break that draft. See it here again. Peel staying up high this time, keeping him guessing. I think both these drivers are just playing chess at this point.
Harlow is doing what he can. He's trying to grab some clean air and arc down low. And it helps for a moment, but he stays in that dirty air. Both of them are using the same line, about a lane up from that yellow line on the bottom end of the racetrack. And this is where Harlow gets his stuff. A lot of the draft on the straightaways, specifically entering turn 1, but they always even out. As soon as Harlow caught up to Peel, it got real hard to make any ground. But here he is. Inside look for the race lead. He's there with 3 laps to go.
Is this too early? He's really going to lean on him for that side draft. Going to change his line into the entry of 3 and 4. He's got to clear him here.
Harlow clear for the race lead. 2 laps to go from Michigan. Was that enough to hold on?
It looks like it. That was a good exit out of 4.
And now it's about what Peel can do on defense. He's yet to respond. He'll dive in 1. He'll force Harlow up high. This is not over in the final 4 miles.
Outside line, a little advantageous here down the back stretch. Not quite clear.
Here he is. Again, Peel on the inside. He'll send it turn 3, but will he wash up too high? And can Harlow make the crossover? Peel parks it center of the corner. White flag in the air, this time by. From Michigan, Peel the race leader.
I think you showed it too early, Harlow. You got to do it one more time.
Did the pixie dust run out for the rookie Stephen Harlow? The onboard look from the Chevrolet as he chases the all-time winningest driver in Sunoco Cup history. Final time down the back straightaway. Can Harlow do anything in 3 and 4? He'll try one more time. Peel holds his defense, and out of the final corner over 200 laps, Lawson Peel stays up front to grab his 4th win of the 2024 season.
Just a little bit too early there for Stephen Harlow on the show. But another challenge here for the 33. Lawson Peel, I mean, just showing why he's up here in this top final 12 and now going to make it on with 2 wins in the second round of 12.
Talk about stealing the spotlight. Lawson Peel sweeps the round of 12. And I'm going to correct myself. It's his 5th win of the 2024 season. And it is the first time a driver has gone 2 in a row since Stempien did it back in late July and mid-August at Dover and Darlington. Lawson has already done it this season, and now it's number 2. Lawson Peel celebrates here at Michigan International Speedway, and Lawson Peel brings you tonight's Sunoco winning moment. More high-performance engines rely on Sunoco race fuels than all others combined, and for over 50 years, Sunoco has been powering the top drivers around the world with high-quality fuels they can trust to power them to the checkered flag. Sunoco, fueling victories from track to tank. Talk about a run up through the field for Lawson Peel. Rolled off 24th on the grid after not setting down a qualifying time. Won stage 1 from brute force track position gain, and then just dominated stage 2, led all the way through stage 3, and for the 5th time this season, Lawson Peel, the race winner from the virtual Michigan International Speedway. We'll take a short break, take a sigh of relief, and we'll be right back with post-race coverage and more for the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. We'll tell you who advanced, who is going home, and which drivers have the thoughts after this race. We'll take a moment and step aside. You're watching the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs live on VSPEED.
What got into you? At Sunoco, we know how to fuel peak performance. Fuel your best.
Fuller,
Yeah,
need an F-150 for Smith build.
got it.
Yesterday.
I know.
Don't forget my BMW.
Gotcha. Check this out. All the major online automotive sites in one place. BMW, done. F-150, done.
How's he do it?
I can search nationwide. Even those classified sites. Auto Tempest, all the cars, one search. That's how I do it.
There's only one fuel that can drive the performance you demand from your car. New 94 Octane, the highest octane on the market, only at Sunoco.
Back live from the Michigan International Speedway, where 200 laps felt like a long time, but it ended up in a stunner. Lawson Peel taking the win over Stephen Harlow in close fashion, both of them fighting tooth and nail to the end. Here are your unofficial race results from the Irish Hills. Lawson Peel picking up his 5th win of the season. He sweeps the round of 12 and gets 2 wins in a row for the 2nd time this season. It's been an impressive season for the 2-time Sunoco Cup champ. Stephen Harlow gave it the best fight he's given all season long. Close to the race win, but got past in the final laps. Ends up as 2nd place. Brandon Banks ends up with a clutch 3rd place finish at the end of this one. We'll talk with all 3 of them before we wrap up our coverage tonight. Garrett Brown, the season 1 champ, recovers from an accident early on to pick up 4th place. Mad props to Garrett Brown on this finish. Steven Stepien, consistent and strong all night long, ends up with a top 5, and that should give him enough points to advance into the next round with ease. Speaking of ease, Kip Easley in the 8-car rounds out the top 6. Dakota Curtis, league owner, recovers to 7th. What a finish for him. And the same goes for Richard Swavely, who spun around midway through the race. In contact with Dakota Curtis, we talked to Swavely. He said he would just try and get back into it. Get back into it, he did. Austin Reedy frustrated in the fight with lap car Shane Wyatt as he was 3rd place. In the waning laps of the race, he falls back to 9th, and Colin Forster, lo and behold, the Jacksonville, Florida native, gets a top 10, and he may be able to advance into the round of 8, Bradley, just with that finish.
Yeah, I think he's good to go here. He was tied with Shane Wyatt. Wyatt finishing 2 laps down. 11th spot goes to Curtis Kelly in the 71. Alex Muscarella with a 12th place finish. Zach Wilson, unfortunately, is going to be eliminated from this points battle as we take 4 more off of this list of 12. Looks like Chuck Stevens, a solid day. He was up in the top 10 there at one point. He'll finish in 14th. Justin Winters, I think he had a couple different cars go across the nose of that 22. He's going to finish in 15th. Casey Knighton. I don't think we said Casey Knighton's name tonight, and that's unfortunate. Casey Knighton, one of those drivers that we talk a lot about through the regular season. He's going to finish in 16th. Chris Shoemaker, a playoff driver. I'm not sure how this shakes out for him, but he gets 17th. Bill Schoonover on the strategy there late in the race, falls back to 18th. Alex Huffman had to come down pit road after staying out in that final stage. He'll end up 19th, a lap down. Then it's Shane Wyatt, the car that frustrated Reedy here tonight. He'll finish in 20th position.
Back in 21st is playoff driver Justin Erb, who may be eliminated after this race. He ended up in a crash on the back straightaway earlier in the going and got some toe-link suspension damage. He had to take a ton of time on pit road. He ends up 8 laps down in that spot. 22nd goes to Dustin Reeves in his Ford Mustang Dark Horse. Chuck Phelps, who brought out one of the more recent cautions in the race, ends up 23rd. Brad Fulham is 24th. Jesse Whittington knocked out of the race early. He will also be eliminated from playoff contention in this round of 12. He's 25th. 26th goes to Aaron Adcock, and Chris Progar rounds out the 27 car field from Michigan. Let's turn to Sunoco Victory Lane, where we are joined once again by Lawson Peel. It's been only 7 days since we last saw you in Victory Lane. 2 in a row. You sweep the round of 12, but you had to fight and claw your way for this win at the end with Stephen Harlow. What was that like from your perspective, and how were you able to hold on?
It was fun. We're having fun. No, that was one of probably the best races I've had in a long time there. And I saw the opportunity with maybe like 20 or 15 to go to break the draft and kind of get out in my own air bubble like I had in the first stage there. And so I tried pretty hard for quite a few laps to see if I could kind of break out of you get farther away from Steven, like get past like that 6 or 7 tenths marker. It just never really quite could. And so by the time he started clawing his way back to me, I had gotten my right front really hot, and it just made for a great race there. He got to my inside in 3 and 4 there with 2 or 3 to go, and just no way I was holding the outside. I was just way too tight, and just was lucky to get back to him in the next corner, and was just able to pack air and kind of get him tight in the middle of the corner, and just by an inch or something get enough air on his left rear to pull him back. I mean, I saw y'all had the in-car shot up on the broadcast there, and it was close. It was close. I thought I was beat there for a minute, but was able to get back to him, and I was just so tight at that point that um, I think if I would have gotten one dirty air corner behind him, I probably would have been done. So, but heck of a race. Been raced really well with Steven all season so far. So got a I think a much better record with him than I do with Ross. But yeah, a lot of fun, and just was trying to take care of it all night, and just stay disciplined like I was telling y'all earlier, and it was tough.
Staying composed even in that crazy situation there with Stephen Harlow. And this race started at the back for you, 24th, after you didn't put in a qualifying time, and you had to brute force your way through the field and to give yourself a position to win stage 1, and it seemed like everything was up from there. What was that like mentally, from starting at the back, having to carve your way through the field early, and then how much it changed once you had the lead and had that vantage point?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun, and I think it prepared me well for later in the race too. I mean, I know y'all saw with about 50 to go there how intense it was getting with it. It looked like Talladega out there. I was trying to help Brandon, and we were dinging off each other on the straightaways, and all did a really good job there. But yeah, credit to iRacing. They've really improved in this next gen aero model, at least the ability to race like that. I mean, some months ago, we probably couldn't get away with doing all that without, kind of hooking each other and getting some net code. But they've really improved all that, and it feels like you're kind of racing like you see them racing on TV in this car. Just you're really able to get close to people's doors, and they've made it not so easy to hook people. So I think it's more realistic and it's more fun, and credit to what they've done here to make it better. Because I think it put on a great show. I can't wait to go back and watch it, especially that segment with about 50 to go there when we were all 3 and 4 wide there battling, because behind the wheel, that was crazy.
That's something that a driver could only handle. Someone like yourself and a bunch of the others in this series, I think I'm just better off in the broadcast booth. I would not stand a chance in 3 and 4 wide here at Michigan. But you sweep this round of 12. You go undefeated in the last 2 races. You've got a ton of playoff points heading into a pivotal round of 8 in search for your 3rd straight Sunoco Cup championship. How much momentum do you have on your side now, and how do you work forward at Talladega and Las Vegas to go back to Homestead with a fighting chance?
Yeah, I had Lee Diffie in my head from earlier today saying, Jeff, this is so mentally exhausting with all this 4 wide. That's what it felt like. But yeah, this was a great round. Tracks for me back, and glad to pick up some momentum and hope to continue it, and build all the way to Homestead, and have another shootout with everybody in Homestead like we did last season. It was a great race, and glad to be going back to your home turf down there for the championship, Kenneth. So just looking forward to that, and just keep doing what we're doing to advance and get there, and be ready when we do, hopefully. So.
Well, there is one more round left to get there, but you've got yourself in a great position after this pivotal round of 12. Before we let you go, Lawson, in Sunoco Victory Lane, anybody you want to thank or shout out to before we let you bounce?
Yeah, thanks to Sunoco for sponsoring the league, for to Dakota Curtis and Dustin Reeves and everybody that helps them out on the admin team. Thanks to VSPEED Racing Network, and you and Bradley up in the booth, and all my Drinking Bros teammates. Shout out to Stephen Harlow, great finish there. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, the SpaceX astronaut, Paul's set up shop, and I think that's everybody.
Well, Lawson, we certainly appreciate the time. On behalf of all of us at VSPEED, congratulations on your 5th win of the season. Welcome to the round of 8. I think we said that last week, but still, welcome to the new round. And we'll see you at Talladega on the 20th.
Looking forward to it.
That's Lawson Peel getting his 2nd straight win in the Sunoco Cup Series playoffs. What a momentum train it's been for the Mississippi native. He's in search of his 3rd straight title in this series. Next up, we've got Stephen Harlow, who put up a fight of a lifetime but was just short of the win. He's caught up with Bradley Cooper.
Well, Steven, I gotta say, that was the best fight that I've seen probably in the last 8 weeks on VSPEED. You guys went back and forth. We cover a lot of racing. For you guys to be leaning on each other like that down the backstretch, and Lawson Peel talked about how much improvement that iRacing has put into this, but I want to talk about how much improvement you've put into this. You're challenging for wins, and you're just doing it because, hey, I'm here to win races and no other reason. How does it feel to be that close here at Michigan?
Oh, man, it feels good. Feels really good every time. Once I got past Reedy, every time we got down the straightaway and I saw him swerving like crazy trying to break the draft, I was like, oh, I'm in his head already. And then it was all the work to get to him. And I figured I probably burned it off by then, but I still had grip, so I said, why not go for it? Make it exciting, make it fun.
It was fun. It was absolutely awesome to see. And, you know, we had a lot of cautions there to break up these runs in the first two stages. But once we got into a situation of a long green flag run, it seemed like that's really when that 33 started to come to life.
Yeah, I've always kind of prided myself in being able to take care of the tires and run long. I run a crap ton of short tracks, and all that is just tire saving to make sure you can get to the end and be able to fight. So being able to actually put that to use here was really, really a good feeling.
Well, you got one other feeling here. You come into tonight with just the scenario in the final season of let me prove myself as a rookie. And so the scouts are out here, they're watching, they're seeing what you got going on. What do you have to say to those guys that maybe had any doubts about what you're capable of?
Well, before this season, I had never run the Cup car consistently, more than a race here or there. And then this year has just all been learning, trying to figure it out. I feel like that was something that's really good for me, I guess. I've had a really good crew around me that knows a lot of stuff. Alex is crazy, ridiculous at saving tires and saving fuel. Stempy's got raw speed. When we were with Ross, it was all the mental game of, how can you keep yourself composed and focused even in crazy situations? And I had a lot of trouble with that early on. I feel like I found every way to lose a race or lose a good finish. But I feel like now I'm really kind of hitting my stride and feeling good in these cars. And I feel like moving on from the end of Sunoco, sadly, at the end of the year, hopefully there will be something good for me to do.
Well, I hope to be a part of that and see how that all comes to fruition. Congratulations on this podium finish. And we're coming down to the very end, the bottleneck here. Still some chances here, Steven, to go get some wins. Anybody you want to shout out?
I want to say thank you to my sponsors, Warrior Soar, Project Hopner, and Team Watson Racing Setups. Like I said last week, they've been with me this whole time, since Xfinity, really. And they've been really good, really great support. I'm really thankful for having them on board. I want to say thank you to Ross for making some really freaking nice schemes for this car. I felt bad that I couldn't run the my throwback scheme with Jody Ridley at Darlington, but I just couldn't make it. So figured I'd put it in for Daytona, and it was really fun to run that. I felt good in it. Thanks to my family at home for watching. I hope they enjoyed it. They texted me right after, and they were like, that was freaking crazy. And then lastly, I got to thank my girlfriend. She's asleep in the other room, but her support's been huge for this, and she's always been there for me no matter what.
I can tell you respect that because I can hear how quiet you're being here in this interview. And but Steven, hey, support, outreach, assistance, recovery, words to live by. And we appreciate your time coming up here in the booth. We'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Stephen Harlow, second place here tonight at Michigan. We're going on to Talladega, but before that, we have one more driver. Looks like Kenneth Bueno has caught up with Brandon Banks in third place.
Indeed, I am. I'd like to call this, Brandon, a DBR comeback race. Lawson Peel started this one 24th. You rolled off 17th, had an end-of-line penalty for missing the driver's meeting. But over this long race, you were able to use the strategy and track position to your benefit, and you escaped with a third-place finish here at Michigan. What was all of that like over the course of the night?
Yeah, I mean, we honestly, I really just wanted to kind of start in the back and just ride and be patient. First part of the race, it's such a long race, and normally Michigan is a pretty hectic, and people are just seems to be wreck after wreck here, even with as much room as we have, which is unbelievable to me. But these guys tonight, they raced really good. We had just a couple cautions. The racing was really tight for a lot of the race. People were giving each other enough room though. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, just wanted to be patient the first part of the race, and kind of wanted to be there at the end. I've been having some bad finishes the past couple of weeks, and just trying to just be there. I think I got enough speed to kind of be in, top 5 a lot of times, and I just get caught up in something or just something happens. So, wanted to have a good finish tonight. A little late, kind of missed the playoffs. Finally, actually come across some good tracks for me, but I don't know. We'll go into these last couple of races, and these are some good tracks for me, and we'll try to just pull a couple people's weekend, I guess, maybe, and try to maybe win one before this thing's over.
And how tough was it to make use of the passes on guys like Austin Reedy, Garrett Brown, Steven
Yeah.
Stempian? Because it seemed like you four were going toe for toe with everything that you guys had in those final laps, especially with Shane White, the lap car, right in the middle of you guys. How difficult was it to make a pass there?
It was tough. I mean, we were all racing each other really hard. The biggest thing was just trying to get the position on the other guy off the corner. The front stretch was so strong on the high side that if you get stuck down there on the bottom without any help, it was like they just blow by you. So, yeah, I'm not 100% sure what was going on with Reedy and Shane. I had to go back and watch it. I know they were having some kind of issue, which kind of checked up Reedy a little bit and made it more of a 4-car race there. I think, I don't know. I think all in all, I think after it was all said and done, I think my pace, I needed to really go long anyway for the most part of the race. I had really long run speed. So I think it just kind of at the end of that thing, I just sat back there and just waited and let them run it out for a minute, and then I just kind of drove by them and I think drove away from them. But I don't think I had the pace for Lawson and Steven there. They were good. I mean, I wish I was up there with them. I don't know if it was just the draft. They were pulling away from me just to maybe a 10th a lap. So, I don't know. Still, like I said, good finish. I'll take it. Congrats to Lawson and them guys for doing that. Them two were kind of the class of the field all night long anyway. So, they deserve it.
Well, now we head into the Super Speedway Talladega next up on the schedule in 2 weeks' time. I've seen you have success at this track in several other leagues. Here in Sunoco Cup action, you're still searching for your first win of the year. What do you take of note when you head into Talladega this time around?
We're not going to hold back this time, Kenneth. We're gonna try to put it up front and try to do the same thing we do over in 4 Wide. Seem to have a lot of luck at this track. I don't know if it's just a little wider, and I like the way you can kind of move the air around. There, I got some really good helpers on my team with Lawson, and hopefully we can get Joe to come back and race with us next week, and Kip. I mean, we got some really good super speedway pushers back there, so hopefully I can get up there and race some hell just like we do over in 4 Wide. So it'll be a lot of fun. We'll see what we can do.
Well, Brandon, a stunning third-place finish here from Michigan. It was hard-fought. It was deserved at the end. Who do you got to thank for all of this over the 200 laps?
Man, appreciate you guys for putting this on. You guys run a top-notch broadcast, and Dustin and them. I wish they would come back and do it again, but it is what it is. Dustin for doing everything. DBR guys, congrats to Lawson, Paul's Setup Shop. Just everybody, Sunoco, everybody that kind of puts this on. It's a lot of fun. Like I said, we got 3 good tracks coming up here at the end of the season. We'll go in there and see if we can do it again.
Giving it all for the final 3. I like the sound of that. Brandon, we appreciate the time. Congratulations on the 3rd place finish, and best of luck at Talladega. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time.
All right, thanks, guys.
That is Brandon Banks, who caps off the 3rd place finish here from Michigan International Speedway. We finally have updates on the playoff bracket. We were waiting to see what the results would be like, but here is how the playoff field stands. Who makes it and who is going home? Lawson Peel won both races in the round, so he, of course, is in. He will have a ton of playoff points when we get to Talladega in 2 weeks' time. He'll have a bunch of those points to his benefit for winning those 2 races. Steven Stempian, after coming home in 5th tonight, he will be 2nd in points after this race. Has a ton of points above the cut line as well. Then is Curtis Kelly, who ends up moving to third in the point standings after a solid night. Alex Muscarella also does the same thing. Alex Huffman also stays in the battle, so he ends up with a pretty good finishing position in the standings despite having to pit late in this race, and some of those points throughout the stages definitely helped his case. Austin Reedy escapes from below the cut line to now secured into the round of 8 with this top 10 finish tonight from Michigan. Alex Muscarella also leaves Michigan with an entry into the next round of the playoffs. So does Colin Forrester, and the last driver to get in, surprisingly enough, is Justin Erb. He got damaged early on in this race, fell so many laps down, but stayed in the contest and ran laps, finished the event. He somehow gets in by 5 points over Chris Shoemaker, who was the first driver eliminated, Shane Wyatt, who fell a lap down at the end and gave Austin Reedy a bit of frustrations. Shane Wyatt is out of the playoffs. So is Jesse Whittington, who got caught up in a crash earlier tonight. And Zach Wilson, we knew his story. If he wasn't able to win tonight, he also will be eliminated from playoff contention. Bradley, your reaction? I'm surprised to see Justin Erb make it despite all of the adversity he faced over the race.
I mean, Shoemaker was in a situation as well, and it was just a matter of who got where ahead of these guys. You know, Shoemaker finishes 17th, and then you have Erb, who finished 21st, but it really was a matter of who was ahead of them that had a bad night, with the 27 of Wyatt. And, you know, you got a few that were probably outside looking in to start this race. Zach Wilson didn't mix it up here enough and get that win. I think with Zach Wilson getting that win, both those drivers are out, but thankfully for Erb, that didn't happen. And he's right there on the edge at a track that anything can happen. So congratulations to him to this final 8.
Gotta note that it is a shocker that Justin Erb made it, especially after tonight. We thought it was over and that he would be knocked out, but he had enough points in the bag to stay afloat in the playoff fight, and he will work over to next race at Talladega Superspeedway. So your 8 that advance: Lawson Peele, Steven Stepien, Curtis Kelly, Alex Huffman, Austin Reedy, Alex Muscarella, Colin Forrester, and Justin Erb. Those are the 8 that survive and advance. We're off to the biggest and baddest track in all of stock car racing, Talladega. That'll be in 2 weeks' time as we enter spooky season. October 20th is where you'll find the broadcast of the Sunoco Cup Series Round of 8 opener in the playoffs. That'll come your way again Sunday, October 20th. That'll be at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're followed by Las Vegas the week after. And then on November 10th is where we decide the Season 7 Sunoco Cup Series champion at the virtual Homestead Miami. Bradley, what do you think of Dega? It is another super speedway race in this playoffs. Surely will shake up the order in the standings once again.
What do I think of Dega? Well, I think that here in Sunoco, it's going to be fun to watch. I'm glad I'm up in the booth, because how stressful is it to run lap after lap and never escape the drivers behind you? You can lead that race, you can be 12th in that race, you can be 30th in that race, and you still have just as much of a chance of coming home victorious. I get so frustrated trying to race lap after lap with guys on both sides of my door, but it makes for a great show. I hope you guys have a chance to tune in at 8:15 on October 20th.
So that will be the 20th of October, 8 p.m. Eastern. We'll have the coverage right here on the VSPEED YouTube channel. And that will do it. Talladega is up next. Our 8 drivers are advanced. And now only one more round to decide the 4 that make it to the Sunoco Cup Series finale. For Dakota Curtis and the entire admin team that keeps the Sunoco Cup Series going, for Adam Baker and for all of his hard work at VSPEED, and for our crew on the broadcast tonight, my colleague Bradley Cooper, I'm Kenneth Bueno saying so long from Michigan. Lawson Peele gets his 5th win of the calendar year. He's onwards to the round of 8 along with the other 7 that join him in the championship fight. We'll be back in 2 weeks' time at the virtual Talladega Superspeedway.